When life hurts too much, it doesn't just break your heart, it steals your breath. It's that silent scream in the middle of the night, when the world is asleep but your soul is wide awake, drowning in questions with no answers. It's the moment you realize no smile, no distraction, no noise can cover the ache inside anymore. And here lies the truth most people never dare to face. The deepest wounds are not the ones the world sees, but the ones we carry in silence, behind closed doors, behind forced laughter, behind the mask that says, "I'm fine." But what if? What if the very pain you are desperate to escape is the only doorway to freedom you've been searching for? Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you are about to discover might just change the way you carry your pain forever. And if these words touch your heart, please consider subscribing to Buddhism in every moment. Your support gives us the strength to keep creating more life-changing videos like this. Part 1. The Hidden Storm Within. When life's weight feels unbearable, what is the one way forward? That question haunts us in the quiet hours when the world is asleep, yet our thoughts are wide awake. We've all felt that hidden storm within, the crushing heaviness of silence, the invisible battle no one else can see. And when the burden feels too much, when every step seems harder than the last, most of us turn outward, desperately hoping the world will hand us peace like a gift wrapped in someone else's smile. But the truth is, the deepest storms do not surrender to outside forces. They only quiet when we dare to turn inward. Pain is not proof that you've failed at life. Pain is proof that you are alive, that your heart still feels, that your soul still responds to what matters. Yet society rarely allows us to embrace pain with honesty. Instead, we are taught to cover it up, to polish our struggles until they look acceptable, to perform "I'm fine," when inside we are breaking apart. We live in a culture where smiles become armor, where silence becomes a prison, where every outward expression of strength hides a storm nobody dares to name. Imagine walking alone through Central Park at night. The city is loud, buzzing with energy, yet here under the canopy of trees, you feel wrapped in silence. The lamps glow faintly along the winding paths, but the shadows stretch deeper, longer. Each footstep echoes against the gravel. Each breath feels like a confession you've been holding back for years. In the middle of this vast city, surrounded by millions, you suddenly realize how alone you feel. This moment is not just about solitude, it's about confrontation. You are face to face with the storm inside you, stripped of distraction, forced to admit what you've avoided. Society pressures us to look composed while our insides are unraveling. Think about how many times you've answered, "I'm okay," when you were anything but. How often have you laughed at a joke while your chest was heavy with unshed tears? How often have you posted pictures of smiling moments online while feeling like you were collapsing behind the scenes? We've been conditioned to believe that vulnerability equals weakness, that admitting our struggles means we've somehow lost. But perhaps the opposite is true. Perhaps the greatest courage lies in acknowledging the storm, in facing it head-on instead of hiding behind the illusion of perfection. The hidden storm within is not something to be feared. It is something to be understood. Every gust of wind, every crack of thunder inside your soul carries a message. Pain is your teacher whispering, "This matters. Pay attention." Fear is your body's way of saying, "I need safety, I need care." Grief is the proof that love once lived inside you so deeply that its absence feels like fire. What if instead of silencing these voices, you sat with them, listened, and learned? Peace is never found by escaping pain. You cannot outrun what lives in your chest. You can drown it in noise, cover it in distractions, smother it with busyness, but the storm will still be there, waiting for you in the silence of midnight. The only way forward is inward, and though that journey feels terrifying, it is also where true healing begins. We resist this truth because facing our pain feels unbearable, but avoiding it costs us more than we realize. When we deny what we feel, the storm only grows darker, heavier. We begin to lose ourselves in the performance of life, showing up at work, at family gatherings, at social events as if we are fine, while inside we are unraveling thread by thread. Slowly, invisibly, the weight of unspoken storms pulls us down until joy feels foreign and peace feels impossible. But here is the paradox. The storm you fear most is also the doorway you must walk through. Imagine sitting on a bench in that shadowed corner of Central Park. The noise of the city fades and you finally allow yourself to whisper the truth. I am not fine. In that admission, a crack forms in the mask you've worn for so long, and through that crack, light begins to seep in. You realize that naming the storm does not make it bigger, it makes you braver. What if you gave yourself permission to stop pretending? What if you allowed yourself to crumble for a while, knowing that crumbling is not the end but the beginning of rebuilding? What if you stopped seeing pain as proof of weakness and started seeing it as a signal that you are deeply, profoundly alive? This is not easy. It requires a radical shift in how you view yourself and the world. But you can begin with small practices, gentle steps into honesty. Start with mindful journaling. Each day, take 10 minutes to write down what you feel without censoring it. Don't dress it up in nice words. Don't soften the sharp edges. Let the raw truth flow onto the page like a storm breaking free from clouds. Over time, your journal becomes not just a record of pain, but a mirror showing you patterns, lessons, and truths you've been too busy to notice. Then, try silence walks. Choose a path, maybe through a quiet park, maybe around your neighborhood at dawn when the world is still, and walk without headphones, without conversation, without distraction. Feel your footsteps on the ground, the rhythm of your breath, the way the air brushes against your skin. Notice what rises inside you when there is no noise to drown it out. At first, it may feel overwhelming, even uncomfortable, but slowly silence teaches you to listen, not just to the world around you, but to the storm within. Finally, consider writing a letter of release. Sit down with pen and paper and write to the pain itself. Write to the fear, the grief, the regret, the anger. Tell it everything you've been holding back. Tell it how it has shaped you, how it has hurt you, how it has weighed you down. Then when you are finished, fold the letter. You can keep it, burn it, or bury it, depending on what feels right. This is not about forgetting or erasing your pain. It's about acknowledging it, giving it a voice, and choosing to no longer let it control you in silence. The storm within is not your enemy. It is a part of your human experience, a reminder that you are alive in a world that both wounds and heals. By facing it, by walking into the silence instead of away from it, you begin the only journey that truly matters, the journey inward, where peace has been waiting all along. The storm inside you does not vanish simply because you ignore it. In fact, the more you resist it, the more relentless it becomes. Like a hidden current beneath the surface of a calm river, it pulls at you quietly, invisibly, until one day you realize you've been swimming against it for so long that you're exhausted. Many people live their entire lives this way, constantly battling their inner current, yet never daring to stop, float, and ask what it has been trying to tell them. Why do we fear stillness? Why does silence unsettle us? Because silence leaves us no escape. When the noise is gone, when the distractions fade, we are left with only ourselves. And for many, being alone with the truth of their own heart is terrifying. To sit with grief, to face regret, to admit loneliness, these are storms we've spent years running from. Yet the truth remains. What we refuse to face will always chase us. Think of the countless ways we try to escape. Some drown themselves in work, piling task upon task until their exhaustion feels like proof of purpose. Others numb their pain with endless scrolling, chasing moments of fleeting distraction in glowing screens. Some seek comfort in substances, relationships, or constant busyness, anything to avoid the quiet, but every escape is temporary. At night, when the world finally grows still, the storm returns, louder than before, demanding to be acknowledged. And so the choice stands before us, stark and undeniable. Continue running or learn to stand in the storm. But standing in it does not mean being destroyed by it. It means learning how to breathe in the middle of the chaos. It means remembering that storms are not endless. They rise, they peak, and eventually they pass. The same is true of your pain. Picture yourself once again in Central Park, walking beneath the tall elms that line the path. The city hums in the distance, but here you are enveloped in something different. The night air is cool, carrying the faint smell of earth and leaves. You feel small but not insignificant. Above you the sky stretches endlessly, indifferent to your worries, yet strangely comforting in its vastness. Each step echoes like a conversation between you and the world, as if the silence itself is urging you to keep moving. The storm inside may still rage, but in this moment you realize you are not powerless. You are not lost. You are simply being called back to yourself. And this is where the deeper lesson lies. Peace is not the absence of storms, but the presence of self. You cannot control the winds of life, the sudden losses, the disappointments, the moments when everything you trusted falls apart. But you can control how you return to yourself in those moments. Peace is not about building walls so high that storms cannot reach you. Peace is about building roots so deep that storms cannot uproot you. The hidden storm within becomes less frightening when you realize it is not an enemy but a mirror. It reflects back to you what you've avoided, what you've denied, what you've carried for too long. Pain is the echo of unmet truth. It is the signal that somewhere inside, a part of you has been left unseen, unheard, unloved. The storm rises not to destroy you, but to bring you back to what matters. But how do you begin to walk toward that storm instead of away from it? The answer is found in presence, and presence is cultivated, not discovered. This is why practices like journaling, silence walks, and writing letters of release hold such power. They do not magically erase pain, but they open the door to dialogue with it. They teach you to meet the storm as an ally rather than an intruder. When you sit down with your journal, pen in hand, and allow the truth to spill out uncensored, you are no longer hiding. You are saying, I see you, I hear you. When you walk in silence, you let the rhythm of your body ground you step after step until the noise inside finds its own rhythm too. When you write a letter of release, you symbolically unchain yourself from the burden of carrying pain in silence. These practices are not trivial. They are lifelines. And what you will discover is that the storm loses much of its power the moment you acknowledge it. Think of how thunder feels before it breaks. A mounting pressure, a heaviness in the air. Then the storm comes, loud and terrifying, but eventually the skies clear. Your emotions work the same way. By pretending they don't exist, you only prolong the heaviness. By letting them rise, by listening, by allowing them to move through you, you create space for the clearing that follows. The world around us rarely teaches this. In fact, it teaches the opposite. In American culture especially, we are taught to smile, succeed, move fast, stay productive, keep busy, look strong. But what if true strength is not in pretending the storm isn't there, but in standing still long enough to let it teach you? What if resilience is not built by avoidance but by presence? This is not romanticizing pain. Pain is real, raw, often brutal. It leaves scars that never fully disappear. But scars are not proof of weakness. They are proof of survival. They remind you that you endured, that you faced what once felt impossible and emerged different, perhaps even stronger. So the next time the hidden storm rises, do not run. Instead, pause, place your hand on your chest and remind yourself, this is not failure, this is life. Breathe into the heaviness. Let the storm roar if it must, but know that it does not define you. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds it, vast, enduring, and unbroken. Part 2. Redefining happiness and pain. Life isn't designed to keep us happy, but to keep us real. That is a truth many resist because it shatters the fairy tale we have been sold since childhood. From the very first stories we hear, the happy ending is painted as the ultimate destination. The hero triumphs, the couple falls in love, the family lives happily ever after. Advertisements echo this same message, suggesting that if you buy the right car, wear the right clothes, achieve the right body, or find the perfect partner, then you will finally arrive at an unshakable state of happiness. Social media only reinforces this illusion, offering endless images of smiling faces, curated vacations, and seemingly perfect lives. The myth becomes so powerful that we begin to measure our worth by how happy we appear. And when real life doesn't measure up, we feel defective. But life was never meant to be an uninterrupted string of joy. Life was designed to be real, and reality is a mixture of opposites. The sun rises, but it also sets. A flower blooms and then it wilts. A child is born, and eventually that same child must face sickness, aging, and death. In the same way, your life holds moments of radiant joy and piercing sorrow, moments of gain and moments of loss, moments of clarity and moments of confusion. To demand permanent happiness is to deny half of existence. The tragedy of modern culture is that it refuses to accept this duality. We are trapped in what psychologists now call toxic positivity, the pressure to plaster a smile over every situation, to interpret every failure as a blessing, to deny the depth of our grief or anger in the name of staying positive. In the United States, this is particularly evident. You see it in the workplace, where employees are expected to stay upbeat even in the face of crushing stress. You see it in social interactions, where answering "I'm struggling" instead of "I'm fine" makes people uncomfortable. You see it in the endless stream of motivational slogans that tell you to look on the bright side no matter what. But real life does not bend to motivational posters, and real growth cannot emerge from denial. The truth is, happiness was never meant to be constant. Its fleeting nature is what gives it value. Imagine if every single day of your life were filled only with sunshine, never rain, never clouds. At first it might sound appealing, but over time you would stop noticing the sun's warmth. It would lose its meaning because it would no longer be contrasted by anything else. Joy requires sorrow to be felt fully. Peace requires struggle to be appreciated. Gain requires loss to teach us its worth. Acceptance of this duality does not make life bleaker. It makes it richer. It frees you from the exhausting pursuit of a fantasy and allows you to live in the fullness of what is. This is the wisdom behind Buddhist teaching and the timeless truth echoed across cultures. To live well is not to chase happiness but to embrace reality. Take the example of watching the sunrise at the Grand Canyon. When you stand on the edge of that immense landscape, the air crisp and still, the sky slowly shifting from black to blue to gold, you are struck by beauty that takes your breath away. The canyon stretches endlessly, carved by time, layered with history older than anything you can imagine. Yet alongside the beauty lies harshness. The rocks are jagged, the cliffs unforgiving, the desert heat merciless in the day. The same forces that make it beautiful also make it dangerous. This is life, wonder and hardship intertwined, inseparable. To insist on beauty without acknowledging harshness would be to miss the truth of the canyon. To live chasing only happiness while denying pain is to miss the truth of your own existence. So how do we begin to redefine happiness in a culture that insists we must always smile? It begins with slowing down and practicing gratitude for both sides of life's coin. Gratitude does not mean pretending that everything is good. It means honoring what is, even when it is not what you wanted. A gratitude reflection can be as simple as sitting quietly at the end of the day and naming 3 moments that touched you. Perhaps a laugh with a friend, the sound of rain against the window, or even the strength you found to endure something painful. Gratitude reframes happiness not as a permanent state, but as fleeting gifts scattered throughout your day, waiting to be noticed. Another powerful practice is keeping a joy and sorrow diary. Each day, set aside a page where you write down 1 moment of joy and 1 moment of sorrow you experienced. The purpose is not to judge or rank them, but to notice them both equally. Over time, you begin to see the rhythm of your life in fuller color. You begin to realize that sorrow does not erase joy, and joy does not erase sorrow. They coexist, shaping you into someone more real, more awake. To embrace reality in this way is to step off the exhausting treadmill of chasing a happiness that never lasts. It allows you to live more authentically, to admit when you are in pain without feeling ashamed, and to celebrate joy without clinging to it as if it must never leave. It transforms your relationship with yourself, freeing you from the endless comparison to others' curated lives. Life is not designed to keep you happy, but it is designed to keep you real. When you surrender to this truth, you stop fighting the natural ebb and flow of existence. You stop treating pain as proof of failure and begin to see it as part of being alive. You stop demanding permanent joy and begin appreciating the fleeting moments of beauty that appear like sunlight breaking through clouds. And in this acceptance, you discover something deeper than happiness, a peace that does not depend on everything going your way. Life isn't designed to keep us happy, but to keep us real. It is a statement that unsettles us because it dismantles the dream we've all been chasing. From childhood, we are taught to seek happiness as if it were a permanent prize, a medal we could wear around our neck once we achieve enough, once we prove ourselves worthy. But when we stop and look honestly, what we see is that happiness never lingers in the way we imagine. It comes in bursts, in flashes, like lightning across the sky, brilliant, breathtaking, but fleeting. And yet, we spend our entire lives chasing the illusion that it should stay. Look at the culture around us, especially here in the United States. Happiness has been packaged, marketed, and sold as the highest ideal. Advertisements tell us that a new car will give us freedom, that flawless skin will bring us confidence, that the right vacation will solve our stress. On social media, endless images of perfect smiles, luxury lifestyles, and dream relationships bombard us daily, whispering that if we just had what they have, we too would finally be happy. The myth is powerful because it feeds on our longing. It promises permanence in a world that is by nature impermanent. But life was never meant to be one-sided. It was never meant to give us joy without sorrow, gain without loss, or clarity without confusion. To believe in permanent happiness is to deny reality itself. The deeper truth is that joy and sorrow are companions, each giving meaning to the other. Gain feels sweet only because we know the taste of loss. Love feels profound only because we understand its fragility. Peace feels precious because we have walked through chaos. The problem is that modern culture resists this truth. Instead, it clings to toxic positivity, the demand that we should always see the bright side, always smile, always pretend that everything is fine. At work, people are told to keep a positive attitude even while drowning under stress. In relationships, we hide our struggles so we won't be labeled as too much or too negative. Even when we grieve, the pressure comes quickly. Stay strong, move on, look for the silver lining. And while encouragement can sometimes lift us, forced positivity suffocates us. It denies us the right to be human, to feel the full spectrum of life. But to live fully is to embrace both. Happiness, when it comes, is sweet, but its sweetness is sharpened by the contrast of pain. The laughter of a child feels more vibrant because you know one day that child will grow, face struggles, and perhaps even leave this world. The warmth of a sunset feels richer because you've endured nights of darkness. Even love itself is intensified by the knowledge that it can end. Pain, far from diminishing happiness, deepens it. Standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon at sunrise captures this truth perfectly. You watch as the sky awakens, the horizon glowing with streaks of orange and pink. The canyon reveals itself slowly, layer upon layer of stone carved by time, colors shifting as the sun climbs higher. The beauty is breathtaking, and yet it is born of violence, erosion, storms, rivers cutting through rock for millions of years. What is now a wonder of the world was once relentless destruction. Beauty and harshness are woven together so tightly they cannot be separated. The Grand Canyon does not try to hide its scars. It displays them openly, and that is what makes it magnificent. What if we approached our lives the same way? What if instead of hiding our sorrows, we acknowledged them as part of the depth of our humanity? What if we stopped treating sadness as failure and began seeing it as evidence of how much we have loved, how much we have cared, how deeply we have lived? One way to begin this shift is through gratitude reflections. Gratitude is not about denying pain or forcing cheerfulness. It is about noticing the small gifts that exist even in the midst of hardship. At the end of each day, pause and ask yourself, what moments today carried meaning? Perhaps it was the taste of your morning coffee, the sound of rain tapping against the window, or the courage you showed by simply making it through another difficult hour. Gratitude reframes happiness from being a permanent state into being a collection of moments, moments that might otherwise slip unnoticed through your fingers. Another practice is the joy and sorrow diary. Each evening, write down one moment of joy and one moment of sorrow. Do this without judgment, without comparing which is greater or more important. Over time, you will see a portrait of your life emerge. The joys will not erase the sorrows, and the sorrows will not cancel out the joys. They will sit side by side, painting a fuller picture of your reality. You will begin to notice patterns, to realize that even in your darkest days, sparks of light existed, and in your happiest moments, shadows were present too. Life was never one or the other, it was always both. To redefine happiness is not to give up on joy. It is to understand that joy was never meant to be permanent. It is to release yourself from the prison of comparison, from the myth of happily ever after, from the crushing expectation that if you're not always happy, you're failing. To redefine happiness is to embrace life as it is, messy, unpredictable, painful, and yet breathtakingly beautiful. It is to trade the exhausting pursuit of constant joy for the grounded peace of authenticity. And perhaps in this shift, you will discover something greater than happiness. You will discover contentment, the quiet knowing that you are living truthfully. You will discover resilience, the strength to stand in both light and shadow. You will discover freedom, the release that comes when you no longer demand that life entertain you with constant sunshine. And in that freedom you may find that the moments of happiness, though fleeting, shine brighter than ever before. Happiness has become a commodity. You see it in the commercials that interrupt your favorite shows, promising that if you just drink this soda, buy this fragrance, or step into this resort, you will finally feel whole. You see it in the endless scroll of Instagram or TikTok, where smiling faces are framed against turquoise oceans and city skylines, laughter frozen in perfect snapshots that whisper, "This is how life should feel." But here is the harsh truth few are willing to admit: many of those smiles are masks. Behind them, people wrestle with the same storms you do. Behind the glossy filters, there are arguments, loneliness, debts, regrets. Yet in this culture, admitting you are unhappy feels almost like breaking a law. You feel pressure to smile at the office even when grief sits in your chest. You are expected to say, "I'm good, thanks," even when you're not sleeping, when anxiety makes your chest heavy, when life feels unbearable. This cultural obsession with happiness does not liberate us, it chains us. It silences our truth. It convinces us that unhappiness equals failure, that sorrow means you are broken, that suffering makes you less valuable. This is where toxic positivity creeps in. On the surface, positivity sounds harmless, even noble. After all, optimism can inspire resilience. But when positivity becomes a command, just be grateful, stay strong, don't be so negative, it stops being helpful and starts being harmful. It dismisses pain instead of honoring it. It demands performance instead of authenticity. It turns real human struggles into shameful secrets. Think about grief, one of the deepest pains a human being can feel. In many American contexts, people are given only a small window of time to mourn before they are expected to return to normal. Colleagues at work say, "It's time to move on." Friends, uncomfortable with the depth of sorrow, urge, "Focus on the good memories." And while these words might come from a place of kindness, they often feel like pressure to deny the truth. But grief cannot be rushed. Pain cannot be bypassed by slogans. Real healing requires us to sit in the discomfort, to let sorrow teach us what joy never could. To redefine happiness, we must first redefine pain. Pain is not evidence that something has gone wrong. It is evidence that we are alive, that we are engaged, that something mattered deeply enough to hurt. When you lose someone you love, the ache you feel is the shadow of love itself. When you fail at something you cared about, the disappointment is proof that your effort was real. When you long for something more, the restlessness inside is a sign of your soul reaching for growth. Pain is not an enemy. It is a mirror reflecting your deepest values. This is not to romanticize suffering. Pain is difficult. It can feel unbearable. But when we begin to see it as part of the tapestry of life, we stop treating it as shameful. We begin to let it live alongside joy rather than imagining we must choose between the two. Consider again the Grand Canyon at sunrise. The beauty is undeniable, but the canyon only exists because of millions of years of erosion, storms, and relentless rivers cutting into rock. Without destruction, there would be no wonder. In the same way, your most breathtaking qualities, compassion, resilience, courage, are often carved by storms. The tenderness you show to someone grieving exists because you yourself have known loss. The patience you extend to a struggling friend exists because you too have struggled. The wisdom you carry was born in nights when you had no answers. To erase pain would be to erase the very forces that shaped you. So how do we live differently in light of this? We begin by telling the truth. Instead of automatically answering, "I'm fine," dare to admit when you are not. Instead of drowning your sadness in distractions, give yourself permission to feel. Instead of treating joy as a permanent destination, embrace it as a fleeting but beautiful guest. This honesty may feel radical, even rebellious, in a world addicted to happiness, but it is the only way to live fully. Here is where practical practices matter. Gratitude reflections shift our attention not by denying pain, but by highlighting the coexistence of good and bad. On a day filled with difficulty, you might still remember the kindness of a stranger holding a door for you, or the brief relief of cool air on your skin. These are not trivial, they are lifelines. They remind you that even in sorrow, beauty exists. The joy and sorrow diary goes deeper. By recording both side by side, you train yourself to see life in its wholeness. One day you may write, "Joy, my child's laughter at breakfast. Sorrow, the argument with my partner." Another day, "Joy, the warmth of sunlight on my face. Sorrow, the loneliness in the evening." With time, you notice that joy and sorrow weave together into something richer than happiness alone, truth. You realize that your days are not ruined by sorrow, nor are they complete only in joy. They are complete when both are acknowledged. This balance changes the way you live. You no longer feel crushed by the pressure to always be happy. You no longer feel like you're failing when pain arrives. You begin to see yourself not as broken, but as fully human, capable of holding multitudes. You learn that sorrow and joy can sit in the same room, that tears can fall even as laughter rises, that life's beauty is not diminished by pain, but often revealed through it. And here is the paradox. Once you stop demanding constant happiness, you begin to notice it more. You stop overlooking the fleeting moments of joy because you no longer expect them to last forever. You savor them, knowing they are precious precisely because they are temporary. The smile of a loved one, the taste of a meal, the beauty of light through a window. These moments shine brighter when you no longer demand that they carry the impossible weight of permanence. This is the heart of redefining happiness, shifting from a destination to an experience, from a prize to a presence, from a constant to a fleeting miracle. And when you live this way, you find that happiness, though it comes and goes, is no longer your master. It becomes your companion, appearing and disappearing, but always reminding you that life, in all its mess and mystery, is worth living. We live in a culture that prizes images over reality. What matters is not how you actually feel, but how convincingly you can perform happiness. Think of the conversations at a workplace break room. Someone asks, "How are you doing?" The expected response is short, cheerful, unbothered. "Good, you." Rarely does anyone pause to say, "I feel lost today," or "I'm exhausted," or "I'm grieving." Such answers feel out of place, even taboo. But why? Because society has conditioned us to equate unhappiness with weakness. We have been taught to fear discomfort so much that we bury it under rehearsed smiles. But if we peel away the layers, what do we find? That most people are struggling in some way. They may not show it, but storms are hidden in nearly every life. The woman who seems confident at the office may cry in her car before walking inside. The man who posts pictures of his new home online may be drowning in debt. The couple that looks picture perfect on vacation may go back to silence and distance when the cameras are off. Pain is everywhere, woven into the fabric of human life. Pretending it isn't there doesn't make us stronger, it makes us lonelier. This is why redefining happiness matters so deeply. The old definition tells us happiness is the absence of pain, but that definition leaves us trapped in a constant war with reality. Because as long as life contains loss, uncertainty, and impermanence, as it always will, we are bound to feel like failures if happiness means nothing but joy. The new definition must recognize that happiness is not the erasure of sorrow, but the presence of truth. Happiness is not found in perfect circumstances, but in authentic living. It grows when we stop chasing an ideal and start embracing what is. Here is the paradox. The more you demand happiness, the less happy you become. The more you cling to joy, the more fragile it feels. But when you release the demand, when you stop insisting that life always please you, joy sneaks in like sunlight through cracks in the clouds. It surprises you, not because you forced it, but because you allowed yourself to be present enough to notice. Think about watching the Grand Canyon sunrise again. You don't command the sun to rise. You don't demand that the canyon reveal itself instantly. You wait. You sit in the chill of early morning, in the stillness of darkness, and then slowly, light begins to spread. The beauty comes in its own time, not because you forced it, but because you allowed yourself to witness it. Happiness works the same way. It reveals itself when you stop grasping and start noticing. But how do you shift from chasing happiness to receiving it? The practices may seem simple, but their impact runs deep. Take gratitude reflections, for example. At first, they might feel like a small exercise, just writing down a few things you appreciated today. But over time, gratitude rewires the way you see life. You begin to notice details you once overlooked. The taste of your morning coffee, the way sunlight filters through your window, the steady rhythm of your breath. Gratitude does not erase sorrow, but it reminds you that joy still exists alongside it. It shows you that life, even when difficult, offers gifts worth noticing. The joy and sorrow diary goes further. By deliberately writing down both, you give equal weight to the light and the shadow. You learn to stop judging yourself for being sad, stop clinging to happiness as if it must never end. Instead, you start to see patterns. Sorrow often deepens your capacity for joy, and joy often gives you strength to carry sorrow. You begin to live less in extremes and more in wholeness. Think of it as music. A song that is only one note is lifeless, boring. What gives music its power is contrast. The highs and lows, the minor and major chords, the pauses between the notes. Life works the same way. Sorrow is the minor chord that makes joy's melody more beautiful. Silence is the pause that makes sound meaningful. To live fully, we must allow the entire song to play, not just the parts that sound cheerful. This is the mistake of toxic positivity. It wants life to be only major chords, only cheerful notes, only endless sunshine. But such a life would be flat, shallow, empty. The attempt to eliminate sorrow leaves us with something that looks like happiness on the surface but feels hollow underneath. Real joy emerges not from denial but from contrast, not from pretending but from presence. Imagine sitting down with your journal after a long day. You write, "Sorrow, I argued with someone I love, and the silence that followed felt heavy." Then on the same page you write, "Joy, I noticed the way the evening sky glowed pink as the sun went down." Both are true, both belong, neither cancels the other. Instead, together they create a deeper, richer reflection of reality. And in that acceptance, you discover peace. Peace is not the absence of pain. It is the ability to hold pain without losing your center. Peace is not permanent happiness. It is authenticity. It is the quiet strength of saying, This is my life right now. It is not perfect, but it is real. And in the end, realness will always matter more than performance. To live authentically requires courage, because it means stepping out of the cultural script that demands constant smiles. It means being willing to say, I am hurting, even when the world expects you to be fine. It means resisting the temptation to curate your life only for others' approval. But in this courage, you find freedom. You no longer need to compete with others' highlight reels. You no longer need to prove your happiness. You are free to live your truth, joy, sorrow, and everything in between. And that is where happiness begins to take on a new shape, not as a final destination, but as a companion on the journey. Not as a constant state, but as fleeting glimpses of beauty. Not as proof of success, but as the natural result of living honestly. When you begin to release the demand for constant happiness, something unexpected happens. Your relationships shift. So many of our interactions are built upon performance. We show others the polished version of ourselves. The smile at dinner, the cheerful tone on the phone, the curated updates online. But intimacy, real connection, cannot be built on performance. It grows only in authenticity. When you allow yourself to admit sorrow, when you reveal the truth of your struggles, you open the door for others to do the same. Suddenly, your conversations are not about who has the brightest smile, but about who is willing to sit with you in the dark. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most connected to another person. Were they the moments when you both pretended everything was fine? Or were they the moments when someone looked you in the eye and said, I know this hurts, and you realized you didn't have to hide anymore? Connection grows not in constant cheerfulness, but in shared humanity. When you redefine happiness, you also redefine love. It becomes less about maintaining appearances and more about holding each other through both joy and sorrow. This same shift carries into our work. American culture glorifies success and productivity, often at the expense of well-being. The corporate world thrives on performance, and employees are praised for their resilience as long as they never show the cost of that resilience. Burnout is hidden beneath forced smiles and upbeat attitudes, until one day someone collapses under the weight of it all. But imagine a workplace where authenticity was valued more than constant positivity. Imagine leaders who admitted, this is a tough season and I'm struggling too. Imagine colleagues who said, I'm not fine today, but I'll do my best. Such workplaces would not collapse, they would thrive because people would feel seen. Real strength does not come from pretending, but from facing reality together. Everyday life is also transformed when you stop chasing happiness as a permanent state. Think of the exhaustion that comes from constant comparison. You scroll through social media, seeing vacations, new homes, smiling families, and you feel as if your life is missing something. But those images are fragments, not the whole. They hide the arguments, the loneliness, the bills, the doubts. When you believe the myth of constant happiness, you measure your life against illusions, and of course you come up short. But when you accept that joy and sorrow coexist for everyone, you free yourself from that exhausting comparison. You realize you are not behind, you are human. This acceptance allows you to savor your own life more fully. Instead of longing for a happiness that never ends, you start noticing the fleeting moments that make life rich. A conversation with a friend where you both laugh until your stomach hurts. The warmth of sunlight on your skin after days of rain. The relief of lying down after a long day. These moments may not erase your sorrows, but they exist alongside them and they are real. When you redefine happiness, you stop demanding perfection and start noticing presence. One of the most powerful examples of this balance can be found in nature. Stand at the Grand Canyon as the sun rises, and you will see it clearly. The beauty is inseparable from the harshness. The cliffs are dangerous, the desert heat unforgiving, the silence almost overwhelming, and yet the view is breathtaking. The very forces that make it dangerous are the ones that carved its beauty. In the same way, your life's struggles are often the very forces that shape your depth, your compassion, your strength. To deny sorrow is to deny the canyon itself. To embrace both is to see the whole. Practical steps help anchor this shift. The gratitude, reflection, and joy-sorrow diary are tools not just for noticing but for retraining your mind. Over time, they change the way you relate to your experiences. Instead of labeling a day as good or bad, you begin to see it as layered, complex, multifaceted. A single day might hold laughter, frustration, relief, grief, and wonder. None of these cancel each other out. They coexist. This shift relieves you from the pressure of living good days only. It frees you to live real days, which is far more sustainable. Another practice is mindful pauses. Several times a day, stop for just 1 minute. Close your eyes, take a breath, and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Don't judge the answer. If it's joy, welcome it. If it's sorrow, acknowledge it. If it's numbness, notice it. This small practice teaches you that emotions are not enemies. They are simply weather moving through your inner landscape. By noticing them without clinging or resisting, you create space for peace. Redefining happiness also changes how you handle loss. Instead of treating grief as a detour, you recognize it as part of the road. You stop rushing yourself to move on and instead allow yourself to move through. You let memories be both sweet and painful. You let tears fall without shame. You learn that grief is not the opposite of love. It is love transformed. In this way, sorrow becomes not a barrier to happiness but a deeper expression of what made happiness possible in the first place. This perspective doesn't eliminate pain. It doesn't make life easier in the conventional sense, but it makes life truer. And truth, though it may sting, also heals. Because when you live honestly, you no longer waste energy pretending. You no longer fight the natural rhythm of life. You learn to bend with it, to walk with it, to trust that both joy and sorrow have a place. The greatest freedom comes when you stop asking, how can I be happy all the time? And start asking, how can I live authentically right now? That question opens a new path, not one of constant smiles, but one of real peace. Because peace is not about manipulating life into giving you only what you want. Peace is about standing in the middle of what is, with open eyes and an open heart, and saying, this too is part of my story. Resilience is often misunderstood. Many imagine it as an armor, a kind of emotional shield that keeps sorrow from touching you. But true resilience is not the absence of pain. It is the ability to be touched by pain and still keep walking. It is the quiet strength that says, I may bend, but I will not break. And this strength does not come from chasing happiness alone. It comes from learning to live with both joy and sorrow. Think of a tree standing on the edge of a cliff at the Grand Canyon. The winds beat against it, the storms strip its branches, the sun scorches its leaves. Yet year after year it endures. Its resilience comes not from avoiding the harshness of the canyon, but from adapting to it, growing roots deep enough to withstand whatever comes. You are not so different. The harsh seasons of your life, the heartbreaks, the disappointments, the losses are not proof of weakness. They are the very conditions that help your roots grow deep. When we cling to the myth of constant happiness, we weaken ourselves. We avoid discomfort, and in doing so, we miss the chance to grow. But when we accept sorrow as part of life, we stop running. We face it. And in that confrontation, we discover a strength we never knew we had. Pain becomes a teacher, showing us what matters most, teaching us compassion, carving us into people capable of depth. Without it, our happiness would remain shallow, fragile, easily broken. This truth reshapes our understanding of fulfillment. For many, fulfillment is imagined as a permanent state of joy, as if one day you will arrive at a destination where sorrow can no longer reach you. But fulfillment is not found in escaping sorrow. It is found in weaving joy and sorrow together into a life that feels meaningful. It is the knowledge that even when you suffer, your life is not wasted. Even when you struggle, you are still growing. Consider the way joy can feel after sorrow. Think of laughter after days of tears. It carries a depth that ordinary laughter does not. Think of relief after months of struggle. It feels almost holy, as if life itself is rewarding you for surviving. Think of love after heartbreak. It carries a tenderness born of knowing how fragile love is. In each case, sorrow did not steal joy, it deepened it. It made joy more vibrant, more real, more precious. This is why toxic positivity fails us. It tells us to skip the sorrow, to paint over it with bright colors, to deny it until it disappears. But in doing so, it robs us of the very depth that gives joy its meaning. Denying sorrow does not make you strong. It makes you brittle. Facing sorrow, walking with it, letting it soften you, that is what makes you unbreakable. Practical practices help anchor this resilience. The joy and sorrow diary, for instance, becomes a training ground. By writing both daily, you remind yourself that life will always contain both. Some days the sorrow may outweigh the joy. Other days the joy may shine brighter. But when you look back over time, you begin to see that neither ever fully disappears. You always carry both. And in this rhythm, you learn to trust that sorrow will not last forever and that joy, even when it fades, will return. Another practice is storytelling. Write the story of your life not as a highlight reel of successes, but as a tapestry of both triumph and struggle. Include the nights you doubted yourself, the failures that humbled you, the grief that broke you open. Then, notice how each of these moments shaped you. Notice how they led to resilience, wisdom, compassion. Storytelling reframes your pain not as wasted chapters, but as essential parts of your growth. Relationships are also transformed when you live with this awareness. Instead of expecting your partner, friends, or family to keep you happy, you begin to value authenticity. You understand that they too will have storms, that they too will feel sorrow. Instead of demanding cheerfulness, you offer presence. Instead of measuring the health of a relationship by how happy it makes you, you measure it by how real it allows you to be. In this authenticity, love deepens. Even your relationship with yourself changes. You stop berating yourself for being sad, anxious, or afraid. You stop treating your darker emotions as flaws to be erased. Instead, you begin to hold yourself with compassion. You learn to say, it's okay to feel this, it's part of being human. And in that compassion you find peace, because peace is never born from denial, it is born from acceptance. The paradox is clear. Sorrow is not the opposite of happiness. It is the soil from which happiness grows. Without sorrow, joy would be shallow, unnoticed, unappreciated. Without joy, sorrow would be unbearable. They need each other, and you need both. This truth can feel heavy at first, especially in a culture that worships happiness. But once you accept it, you discover freedom. You no longer need to pretend. You no longer need to compare your life to others' curated images. You no longer need to chase a permanent state that does not exist. Instead, you live fully, embracing the highs, the lows, and everything in between. And this is where resilience becomes something more than survival. It becomes growth. It becomes a quiet confidence that no matter what life brings, you can endure. Because you no longer measure your life by how happy you feel, but by how authentically you live. You understand that fulfillment does not come from avoiding storms, but from learning to dance in the rain. Part 3. Breathing through the storm. The breath is life's most overlooked lifeline. You can go days without food, hours without sleep, but only a few minutes without breath. And yet for most of us, it is the one thing we take for granted. It happens automatically, silently, a background rhythm to our days until the moment life feels unbearable. Then the storm comes, grief, anger, fear, despair, and suddenly our breath betrays us. It shortens, it quickens, it catches in the chest. We gasp through tears or hold our lungs tight as if locking the world outside. In these moments, the very thing we need most, our breath, is the first to disappear. Start with the breath. That simple reminder has the power to transform not only your physiology but your spirit, because breath is not merely a mechanical exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. It is a spiritual anchor, a bridge between body and soul, between chaos and stillness. Every inhale whispers, I am alive. Every exhale teaches, I can let go. When the storm rages inside you, the breath is the one rope tied to the shore, keeping you from being swept away. Modern neuroscience now confirms what ancient wisdom always knew. The way you breathe shapes the way you feel. When you are anxious, your breath becomes shallow and fast, signaling danger to your nervous system. Your body responds with a surge of adrenaline, your heart races, your muscles tighten, your mind floods with fear. But when you breathe slowly and deeply, you send the opposite signal. The vagus nerve, running from brainstem to heart to lungs, carries the message, you are safe. Heart rate slows, tension eases, clarity returns. The storm may not vanish, but you begin to stand in it with steadier ground. This is not an abstract truth, it is something you can practice right now. Box breathing, for instance, is a simple technique. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, hold again for 4 counts. Repeat this pattern and within minutes, your nervous system begins to calm. It is like tracing the outline of a square with your lungs, steady, predictable, grounding. Each breath becomes a step back from panic, a reminder that even in chaos, you have control over this one small thing. Or consider the practice of 5 breaths before reacting. In the rush of conflict or the heat of anger, our instinct is to speak, to act, to release our energy outward without pause. But what if you chose instead to stop, place your hand on your chest, and take 5 deliberate breaths? Each inhale fills you with presence. Each exhale releases some of the tension coiled in your body. By the time the 5th breath leaves you, the urgency to lash out has softened. You may still feel anger, but now it is tempered with clarity. Breath does not erase the storm, but it prevents you from becoming the storm. Mindful movement carries this even further. Walking slowly, feeling each step rise and fall with your breath. Stretching your arms wide as you inhale, folding inward as you exhale. Moving not as an exercise to perfect your body, but as a ritual to anchor your spirit. Breath becomes the metronome, movement the melody. In this harmony, the storm's volume lowers. You are reminded that your body is not only a vessel of stress, but also a sanctuary of peace. Imagine yourself standing on the cliffs of Yosemite at dawn. The valley stretches below, granite walls bathed in pale light, waterfalls tumbling with endless rhythm. The wind is cool against your face. You close your eyes, inhale deeply, and feel the mountain air expand your lungs. For a moment, you are not your thoughts, not your burdens, not your fears, you are only breath. The storm inside quiets not because the world has changed, but because you have remembered the anchor you always carried. Breathing through the storm does not mean you avoid pain. It means you create enough space inside yourself to hold it without drowning. You learn that even in grief, there are breaths. Even in anger, there are pauses. Even in despair, there are inhales that whisper life into you and exhales that release the weight you cannot carry forever. Breath becomes a constant reminder. Storms pass, but the rhythm remains. There is also a profound spiritual truth here. In many traditions, breath is more than biology. It is the very essence of life. The Hebrew word ruach means both spirit and breath. The Greek pneuma carries the same dual meaning. In Buddhism, mindful breathing is the foundation of awakening. Across cultures and centuries, breath has been seen as sacred, the invisible thread tying us to the present moment. To breathe is not only to survive, it is to participate in the miracle of existence. This is why every practice of awareness begins with the breath, because breath is always here, always available, always now. You cannot breathe yesterday's breath, and you cannot breathe tomorrow's. The breath pulls you relentlessly into the present, the only place peace can be found. No matter how wild the storm of your mind, the breath is an anchor that says, here, now, alive. When you learn to trust your breath, you begin to trust yourself. You realize that you carry within you a built-in refuge, a way to steady yourself no matter what life throws your way. You may not control the storm, but you can always choose how to breathe in it. And sometimes that small choice is enough to shift everything. So the next time life feels unbearable, when your chest tightens, when fear or sorrow threatens to overwhelm you, remember this. Start with the breath. One inhale, one exhale. Nothing more, nothing less. Return to it again and again like waves against the shore. Let it steady you, soften you, remind you. The storm may rage, but you are still here, still breathing, still alive. And as long as breath remains, so does the possibility of peace. Breath is the thread that has carried you from the very first moment of life. Before you opened your eyes, before you knew the sound of your own voice, you inhaled. And in that inhale, the world welcomed you. From that moment onward, breath has been your constant companion, quiet, steady, often unnoticed. But when life turns turbulent, when grief strikes or fear grips, breath is the first thing you lose. It becomes shallow, frantic, or held hostage inside your chest. That is why the call to start with the breath is not a cliché. It is the reminder that when everything else feels uncertain, you still carry within you the most reliable lifeline. Breathing is not just survival, it is a spiritual anchor. It connects body to mind, thought to action, spirit to the present moment. When the storm of sorrow, anger, or despair rages, the breath grounds you in what is real. Each inhale affirms, I am alive. Each exhale whispers, I can let go. This rhythm is ancient, older than words, older than memory, and it is always within reach. Science has begun to illuminate what wisdom traditions knew long ago. Neuroscience reveals that slow, deliberate breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It signals the body that danger has passed, even if only for a moment. The vagus nerve, stretching from brain to lungs to heart, listens to your breath as if it were a language. When the breath is rushed and shallow, the message is alarm and the body floods with adrenaline. When the breath is deep and measured, the message is safety and the body releases its grip. Your heart rate steadies, your muscles soften, your mind clears. Breath is not just air moving in and out. It is medicine carried silently within you. Practices like box breathing make this truth accessible. 4 counts in, 4 counts holding, 4 counts out, 4 counts resting. The square of breath is a structure you can lean on when your mind feels scattered. You cannot control the storm outside, but you can walk the edges of this square again and again until you remember that stability is still possible. The rhythm itself becomes a refuge. The practice of taking 5 breaths before reacting is equally transformative. In the moments when anger burns, when fear shouts, when grief overwhelms, you are most tempted to react quickly. But reaction often fuels the storm. By stopping to breathe 5 times, slowly and fully, you place a pause between emotion and action. That pause is where wisdom enters. Breath does not erase anger or grief, but it steadies your hand, softens your words, and creates space for compassion to flow where harm might have followed. Mindful movement extends this anchor into the body. Each inhale lifting your arms, each exhale folding forward, each step rising and falling with breath. Movement becomes prayer and breath becomes its rhythm. Instead of running from discomfort, you allow breath to guide you through it. Even simple practices, walking slowly in silence, feeling heel and toe with each step, synchronizing with the rise and fall of breath, remind you that you are not lost. The storm may roar, but there is a rhythm beneath it, and you are part of that rhythm. Picture yourself on the cliffs of Yosemite, the valley stretching vast beneath you. Granite walls rise like ancient guardians, waterfalls cascade with eternal persistence, and the morning air is cool and sharp in your lungs. You close your eyes, inhale deeply, and for a moment nothing else matters. Not the past you regret, not the future you fear. Only this breath, filling, emptying, returning. The storm inside is still there, but it feels less like a cage and more like weather moving through a larger sky. Yosemite's cliffs remind you, permanence is an illusion, but presence is always possible. To breathe through the storm is to reclaim your life, one inhale at a time. You cannot erase the pain of loss, the sting of failure, or the weight of sorrow, but you can meet them with steadiness. You can choose not to be consumed. Breath becomes the silent mantra, I remain, I endure, I live. Across cultures, breath has always been sacred. In Hebrew, the word ruach means both breath and spirit. In Greek, pneuma carries the same meaning. In Sanskrit, prana is the life force that animates existence. Buddhism teaches that mindful breathing is the doorway to awakening. These traditions did not stumble into this truth by accident. They knew what modern science now affirms, that breath is more than oxygen. It is presence. It is life itself. When you focus on your breath, you cannot remain in yesterday, nor can you leap ahead to tomorrow. Breath pulls you back to the only place you have ever truly lived, the present moment. That is why every practice of awareness begins with it. Because no matter how loud the storm of thought, no matter how far you drift into regret or fear, breath is always here, calling you home. And so, when the storm feels too much, when your chest tightens and the world feels unbearable, return to this truth. Start with the breath. Not as an escape, but as an anchor. Inhale and know you are alive. Exhale and release what is not yours to carry. Repeat this rhythm until peace, however small, begins to seep through the cracks of the storm. For as long as breath remains, so does the possibility of beginning again. Storms do not always arrive as thunder or lightning. Sometimes they arrive as panic in the chest, grief like a stone on the lungs, or anger that steals your air before you can speak. In those moments, you forget the simplest truth. You are still breathing. It feels impossible to remember because the breath becomes shallow, trapped high in your chest, racing as if you are running even while you sit perfectly still. That is why the instruction is always the same, from monks in meditation halls to therapists guiding patients through anxiety. Start with the breath. It is astonishing how something so ordinary carries such power. Breath is not only survival, it is a doorway. It is the one action that unites your body and your mind, your conscious and your unconscious. When you inhale, you participate in life itself, taking in what the world offers. When you exhale, you practice release, letting go of what no longer serves you. Each cycle of breath is a cycle of trust. Trust that life enters, trust that life leaves, and trust that it will return again. The ancients saw this clearly. In Buddhism, the very foundation of mindfulness is breathing, anapanasati, awareness of inhaling and exhaling. In yoga, breath, or prana, is considered the current of life that sustains the body and awakens the spirit. In every language, from Hebrew's ruach to Greek's pneuma, breath and spirit are bound together. Yet in our modern lives, we overlook it, ignoring the anchor always within reach. Neuroscience today offers a map for what spiritual teachers intuited. When you breathe deeply and slowly, the vagus nerve sends signals that calm the nervous system. Your heart rate begins to slow, your muscles loosen, your mind clears. It is as if your body has been told, you are safe. This is the power of deliberate breathing. It does not remove the storm, but it changes how your body stands inside it. Without breath, you drown in panic. With breath, you learn to float. Techniques help bring this into practice. Box breathing, inhale 4 counts, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4, give structure when the storm feels chaotic. Each cycle is a square you can trace with your lungs, predictable, steady, grounding. Or try 5 breaths before reacting. In conflict, when you want to speak in anger, pause. Place a hand on your chest, breathe in and out 5 times. By the last breath, clarity softens the heat, and you speak from steadiness instead of storm. Even simple mindful movement, walking slowly, matching each step to the rhythm of your breath, teaches your body that life can move at a calmer pace. Imagine standing at the edge of Yosemite's cliffs. The valley spreads beneath you, granite faces carved by time, waterfalls roaring in eternal rhythm. The air is cool and sharp as it fills your lungs. For a moment, the weight you carry is not gone, but it is no longer crushing. Each inhale feels like the mountain lending you its strength, each exhale like the valley receiving your release. The storm within you is still present, but it feels smaller against the vast rhythm of breath and stone. Breathing through the storm is not escape, it is courage. It is the willingness to remain when everything inside you wants to run. It is saying, I may not control what is happening around me, but I can choose how I meet it. Every storm eventually passes, but breath is with you always. It is the reminder that as long as air fills your lungs, you are still alive, still capable of beginning again. Storms in life do not announce themselves politely. They erupt in the body before they ever make sense in the mind. You may notice your hands trembling during a difficult conversation, or your heart racing in the middle of the night, or your thoughts spiraling so fast you cannot even name them. What is happening in those moments is not simply stress. It is your nervous system sending alarms, telling you that something feels unsafe. And in the middle of this internal chaos, the most powerful tool you have is the one most often forgotten: your breath. Start with the breath, because breath is the one thing you can influence immediately. You may not be able to stop the argument, or reverse the diagnosis, or undo the loss, but you can inhale and exhale. You can claim control of this single rhythm, and in doing so begin to quiet the body's alarms. Neuroscientists call this bottom-up regulation. Instead of trying to think your way into calmness, you breathe your way into it. Deep, slow breathing stimulates the vagus nerve, which sends a message back to the brain: stand down, we are not in mortal danger. Your pulse slows, muscles unclench. The storm is still there, but its grip on you loosens. You begin to reclaim the space between stimulus and response, the space where freedom lives. This is why simple practices matter so much. Consider box breathing again. 4 counts in, 4 counts holding, 4 counts out, 4 counts resting. It may seem mechanical, but that's the point. When your mind feels like it's spinning out of control, structure steadies you. Your lungs draw the square again and again, reminding you that there is still order even when everything feels chaotic. Or take the practice of mindful pauses. Several times a day, stop for 60 seconds. Close your eyes. Place one hand on your abdomen and feel it rise with each inhale, fall with each exhale. At first, your mind may protest: too busy, too restless, too loud. But if you remain, even for a minute, you will notice a shift. The thoughts are still there, the worries still waiting, but they feel less overwhelming when carried on the rhythm of breath. There is also the practice of 5 breaths before reacting. Imagine you're in the middle of an argument. Words are forming in your throat, sharp and fast, ready to wound. But then you remember: wait. Inhale once, exhale once. Inhale again, exhale again. By the 5th breath, something in you has softened. You may still speak, but now your words are shaped by clarity instead of fury. Breath has bought you time, and in that time, compassion found room to enter. This is not only emotional, it is spiritual. Breath has always been tied to the sacred. Ancient texts saw it as life itself. In Buddhism, mindful breathing is the foundation of meditation. In Christianity, the breath of God is the act that animates humanity. In Hinduism, prana is the energy that flows through every living thing. Across traditions, breath is more than oxygen. It is connection to what is eternal. Imagine standing at Yosemite again, on those vast cliffs, the valley unfolding below. The waterfalls roar in the distance, relentless and eternal, yet you are still breathing. Each inhale feels like the mountain lending you its strength. Each exhale feels like the valley receiving your surrender. You realize that you too are part of this rhythm. The mountain breathes in rain and exhales rivers. The trees inhale carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen. You inhale life and exhale release. The storm in you is part of a much larger rhythm, and suddenly it feels less like a trap and more like a passage. Breathing through the storm does not erase your pain. It does not pretend that loss is less devastating or that fear is less real. What it does is create space. Space to feel without being consumed. Space to endure without shattering. Space to remember that you are not only the storm, you are also the sky that holds it. So the next time despair rises, when your chest feels tight and your thoughts race, pause. Put one hand on your heart, the other on your abdomen, and breathe. Inhale slowly, deeply, fully. Exhale gently, steadily, completely. Do this not to escape your pain, but to stand with it. Because in every breath you are reminded, I am alive. I am here. And as long as I am breathing, there is still a way forward. Breath is the most intimate companion you will ever have. It has been with you since the first moment of life, and it will remain until your final moment on this earth. Yet most of us move through our days barely aware of it, as if the very act that sustains us is too ordinary to matter. But when life becomes unbearable, when grief and fear threaten to tear you apart, your breath is not ordinary at all. It is the first line of defense. the anchor that can hold you steady when everything else collapses. Think of the way the body responds to trauma. When something frightening or devastating happens, your nervous system ignites. The sympathetic branch surges, flooding your bloodstream with adrenaline, preparing you to fight, flee, or freeze. Your breath becomes rapid and shallow, your chest tightens, your mind races. This is not weakness, it is biology. But if left unchecked, that biology can trap you in the storm long after the danger has passed. The memory of fear lingers in the body, and without tools, you remain captive to its grip. This is where breathing becomes more than survival. It becomes medicine. Trauma researchers today affirm what contemplatives have known for centuries. The breath can rewire the nervous system. Each slow inhale tells your body that you are safe. Each long exhale drains tension from your muscles, like water flowing out of a clenched fist. Over time, deliberate breathing not only calms the moment but begins to heal the patterns left by pain. You learn that you do not have to live as a prisoner of your body's alarms. You can choose to breathe differently, and in doing so, live differently. Daily practice makes this real. Set aside 5 minutes each morning before the world begins to rush you. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and breathe. Inhale through your nose, feeling your belly expand. Exhale through your mouth, letting your shoulders drop. Count to 4 as you breathe in, count to 6 as you breathe out. Do this again and again until your body remembers what peace feels like. This simple ritual prepares you for the storms ahead. It does not prevent them, but it equips you to stand more firmly inside them. Breath is also a tool for reclaiming your voice. How many times have you spoken words you later regretted because you reacted without pause? Anger rises, fear shouts, and before you know it, the storm has spoken for you. But if you train yourself to breathe first, even for a few moments, you reclaim the choice of how to respond. 5 breaths before speaking is not weakness. It is wisdom. Those breaths become a sacred pause, a doorway through which clarity enters. In mindfulness traditions, there is a practice called returning. Whenever your mind wanders into regret of the past or anxiety about the future, you return to the breath. The inhale brings you back, the exhale grounds you here. You may return 100 times in one sitting, but each return is an act of freedom. It is a declaration. I am not lost in the storm. I can come back to myself. Imagine, once more, standing on the cliffs of Yosemite. The sky is painted in gold as the sun rises, the valley below cloaked in mist. You inhale, filling your lungs with the crisp mountain air, and for a moment you feel as if you are inhaling the strength of the granite itself. You exhale, and it is as though the valley accepts your burdens, carrying them away in silence. This is not fantasy. It is the lived experience of breath as a bridge between your fragile human heart and the vastness of the world around you, a bridge between your storm and your stillness. To breathe through the storm is to remember that you are not powerless. You cannot control what others do or stop life from bringing loss, but you can always choose how to breathe. And that choice, small as it seems, reshapes everything. It slows your body, clears your mind, softens your heart. It reminds you that even in the fiercest storm, you still have access to peace, not because the world has changed, but because you have returned to yourself. So practice. Practice in the quiet moments so that when the storms come, the habit is already written in your body. Practice box breathing in traffic, practice slow exhales in meetings, practice mindful pauses before bed. Let your breath become second nature, the anchor you turn to again and again. Because in the end, breath is not just air, it is presence. It is spirit. It is life. And as long as it remains in you, no storm can take away your chance to begin again. Part 4. Stop running from pain, let it speak. Pain is not punishment, it is a teacher. Yet we have been conditioned to treat it like an enemy, something to outrun, deny, or silence at all costs. When pain arises, our instinct is to turn away. We bury it under distractions, hide it behind false smiles, or drown it in endless noise. But what if pain was not meant to be fled from? What if it was meant to be faced, to be listened to be honored as a guide? There is a reason pain feels so overwhelming when you resist it. Avoidance does not dissolve pain, it multiplies it. It grows larger in the shadows, echoing louder the more you pretend it isn't there. Imagine standing in a canyon. You shout once and the sound bounces back to you, louder, distorted, unignorable. Pain works the same way. The more you run, the more it follows. The more you silence it, the more it demands to be heard. In our modern world, we have built countless escape routes. Phones light up with notifications. Streaming platforms invite endless distraction, and work offers a socially acceptable way to stay busy enough to forget. Every moment of discomfort can be covered by noise, scrolling endlessly through feeds, binge-watching shows late into the night, filling calendars until there is no space left to feel. These distractions may soothe for a moment, but when the noise fades, the pain waits still, heavier than before. To stop running is an act of courage. To sit still with your pain, even for a few minutes, feels unbearable at first. Your chest tightens, your thoughts grow loud, your body screams to move, to escape, to do anything but remain. But if you stay, if you commit to sitting in that discomfort for 5 minutes, you will notice something remarkable. The pain shifts. It does not vanish, but it softens. It reveals itself not as an endless storm, but as a message. Beneath grief is love. Beneath anger is hurt. Beneath fear is longing for safety. Pain does not come to punish you, it comes to show you what matters. This practice is simple, though not easy. Choose a quiet place, set a timer for 5 minutes and sit. Close your eyes, breathe. When pain rises, don't push it away. Notice where it lives in your body. Is it in your chest, your stomach, your throat? Stay with it like you would stay with a child crying in the night. Offer it attention, not rejection. You may be surprised by what emerges. A memory long buried, a truth you have been avoiding, a need you have silenced. By listening, you begin to release. The Rocky Mountains offer a metaphor for this practice. High among the peaks, silence stretches vast and unbroken. You cannot escape it with city noise or digital distraction. The stillness presses against you until you have no choice but to face yourself. At first, it can feel unbearable, but as you remain, the silence transforms. What once felt heavy becomes expansive. What once felt frightening becomes freeing. Pain is the same. Faced directly, it loses its grip. It becomes not a cage, but a teacher, guiding you to see what you have long avoided. The paradox is that the very act of facing pain lightens it. You spend so much energy running, hiding, numbing, that you do not realize the weight you carry is doubled by resistance. But when you turn to face it, when you finally let it speak, you discover it is lighter than you feared. Pain is not endless. It is a wave. It rises, it peaks, and if you allow it, it passes. Running only traps you beneath it. Facing it teaches you how to ride it. So stop running. Let the echoes in the canyon return until you hear their message clearly. Sit in the silence of the mountains until you learn what your heart has been trying to tell you. Pain is not here to destroy you. It is here to teach you how to be alive, how to love deeply, how to heal honestly. Let it speak, and you may find that the storm you feared most was never an enemy but a guide back to yourself. We live in an age where pain is treated as a malfunction, something to be erased as quickly as possible. If you have a headache, there is a pill. If you feel lonely, there is a screen glowing with endless faces. If you are restless, there is work, distraction, or noise to occupy every second. Modern life has perfected the art of avoidance, but in doing so, it has robbed us of one of the greatest teachers we will ever encounter. Pain is not here to punish you. It is here to instruct you. It reveals where healing is needed, where boundaries must be drawn, where love was once planted, and where loss has left its scar. When you silence pain, you silence your own chance at transformation. Running is easy, but it comes at a cost. You scroll late into the night, your thumb numb against the screen, convincing yourself that endless entertainment will drown out the ache. But when the light of morning arrives, the emptiness is still there, heavier than before. You bury yourself in work, scheduling every hour so tightly that there is no room for reflection. But eventually, exhaustion cracks the surface, and the sorrow you've buried comes rushing back. You pretend to smile in front of others, but when you are alone, the mask collapses, and the silence roars with everything you've been avoiding. Avoidance does not heal. It only delays. And with delay, the echoes grow louder. Picture yourself in a vast canyon. You call out, hoping your voice will vanish into the air, but instead it returns to you, louder, stretched, and undeniable. Pain works this way. You try to throw it away, but it comes back in echoes, through sleepless nights, through sudden bursts of anger, through tears you cannot explain. The more you try to silence it, the more insistent it becomes. The only way forward is to stop shouting into the void and start listening. Facing pain does not mean collapsing under it. It means pausing long enough to allow it to speak. Begin with something simple, 5 minutes each day of sitting in stillness. No phone, no music, no distraction. Just you, your breath, and whatever rises in the silence. At first, it may feel unbearable. Your chest may tighten, your mind may scream for escape. But if you remain, even for those few minutes, something shifts. Pain, when acknowledged, often softens. It begins to reveal its message. Grief says, I loved deeply. Anger says, I was hurt. Fear says, I long to feel safe. When you listen, pain transforms from an enemy into a guide. This practice is much like standing in the Rocky Mountains. At first, the silence of those peaks can feel crushing. The vastness makes you aware of how small you are, how fragile. But as you stay, the silence begins to teach. You notice the rhythm of your heart, the strength of your breath, the way stillness does not destroy you but steadies you. What once felt unbearable becomes sacred. Pain works the same way. What begins as something terrifying becomes, with attention, a source of wisdom. The paradox of pain is that resisting it makes it heavier, but embracing it makes it lighter. We spend so much energy running, numbing, and denying that we don't realize we are doubling the burden. The moment you stop resisting, you free yourself from half the weight. Pain remains, yes, but it becomes bearable. You learn that tears are not weakness but release, that sitting in sorrow does not mean you will drown, but that you will eventually find the bottom and rise again. So stop running. Let the silence of the mountains teach you. Let the echoes in the canyon deliver their message until you no longer fear their sound. Pain will not destroy you. It will instruct you. It will point you toward the places you need to heal, the truths you need to face, the life you are still capable of living. When you stop silencing pain and allow it to speak, you step into the only kind of freedom that lasts, the freedom of living honestly with yourself. Part 5. The trap of holding on. Attachment to the past keeps us stuck. We tell ourselves that we are mourning a loss, but often what we are really mourning is the refusal to let go of what once was. Pain itself is hard, yes, but the sharper edge of suffering comes not from loss itself, but from resistance to it. We replay the moments endlessly in our minds, clinging to what can never return, trying to bargain with time as though memory were enough to keep life from moving forward without us. Yet life, in its relentless flow, always moves on. It is not cruelty, it is nature. And if we remain chained to the past, we remain trapped outside of the present. Grief is not something that moves in a straight line. It is not neat, not clean, not predictable. Theories often speak of stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. But in truth, these stages are not sequential steps but waves, overlapping and returning without warning. One moment you may feel almost steady, the next you are pulled under by sorrow as fresh as the day of loss. In American culture, there is an expectation of closure, as if grief has a finish line, as if you are supposed to arrive at a moment where you say, I am done with this now. Closure is a myth. We do not close the book on what mattered deeply. We learn to carry it differently. This is why resistance is so exhausting. We try to pretend we have arrived at closure because society tells us it is time. We hide our continued grief because it makes others uncomfortable. But the truth is that grief does not end. It changes shape. Holding on to the idea that you should be done by now is its own trap, its own source of pain layered on top of loss. What liberates us is not forcing closure but accepting transformation. There are ways to honor what was without chaining ourselves to it. Rituals can help us release without forgetting. Imagine lighting a candle at night, dedicating its flame to the memory of what has passed. As the flame burns, you give yourself permission to feel sorrow, to remember with tenderness, and then as the flame goes out, to set the memory free for the night. Or imagine dedicating a walk, choosing a path through a park, each step a prayer of gratitude for what once was, each breath an offering of release. Some plant a tree, letting roots and branches carry the memory into new life, allowing what is gone to grow into something that still nourishes the living world. These rituals do not erase grief, but they transform it. They allow memory to be honored without binding you in resistance. Think of standing on the Golden Gate Bridge, the Pacific wind fierce against your face, the water stretching vast and unyielding below. The bridge itself is a symbol of crossing over, of leaving one shore behind and reaching for another. In your hands, you carry a memory, perhaps a letter you have written to what you lost, perhaps a flower, perhaps only a thought. You lean over the rail, release it into the wind, and watch as it disappears into the vastness below. In that moment, you do not lose the memory. You free yourself from the need to hold it so tightly. You acknowledge that the past was real, that it shaped you, that it mattered, but you also accept that you cannot live forever on the shore you left behind. You must cross. The trap of holding on often disguises itself as loyalty. We tell ourselves that letting go means forgetting, that moving forward means betraying what we lost. But the opposite is true. When you hold too tightly, you freeze the memory in place, lifeless and stagnant. When you release, you allow the memory to breathe, to move, to evolve. You carry it forward not as a chain, but as a source of strength. Resisting loss locks you in yesterday. Accepting it allows you to live today. And today is where life is, where new joy may rise, where unexpected beauty waits, where healing takes root. The past will always remain, but if you keep clinging to what is already gone, you will miss the life unfolding before your very eyes. The invitation, then, is to notice where you are holding on too tightly. What memory, what relationship, what version of yourself have you refused to release? Sit with it, write about it, light a candle, walk in silence, stand on a bridge and offer it to the wind. Do not erase it, honor it. Do not deny it, accept it. And then let it move, let it breathe, let it find its place in the story of your life without trapping you in yesterday's chapter. Because freedom is not found in forgetting, it is found in releasing. And when you release, you discover that you are not leaving love behind. You are carrying it with you, reshaped, renewed, ready to become part of the person you are still becoming. We often imagine that holding on to the past keeps it alive, as though our grip could preserve what time has already claimed. We think, if I let go, I will lose it forever. Yet the irony is that clinging does not preserve life, it suffocates it. The memories you clutch so tightly begin to harden, stripped of breath, stripped of growth. What was once a living, fluid part of you becomes rigid, frozen in time. This is the real trap of holding on. It convinces you that loyalty means never loosening your grasp, when in truth, real loyalty honors what was by allowing it to flow into what is yet to come. Grief exposes this trap with merciless clarity. You wake in the night and find yourself replaying the last conversation, the final moments, the things you wish you had said or done differently. These memories loop endlessly, as if running them again and again could change the outcome. But they only tighten the chain between you and the past, draining the energy you need to live in the present. It is not the loss itself that breaks us. It is our refusal to release our resistance to it. Loss is inevitable. Resistance is optional. American culture complicates this further with its obsession with closure. We are told to tie grief into a neat bow, to find an ending, to package sorrow in a way that makes others comfortable. Friends ask, "Are you over it yet?" as though grief has an expiration date. Workplaces give only a handful of days to mourn, as though a funeral marks the end of sorrow. But grief does not respect deadlines. It moves in waves, some gentle, some overwhelming, and it continues long after the world expects you to be fine. The demand for closure is not healing, it is erasure. Healing does not mean forgetting. It means integrating the loss into your life in a way that allows you to keep moving forward. Ritual can help bridge this impossible gap between memory and release. Lighting a candle each evening, dedicating its flame to someone you miss, allows sorrow to take shape without consuming you. A walk dedicated to memory, each step carrying both love and release, gives the body a way to process what the mind struggles to accept. Planting a tree in honor of someone or something you have lost allows memory to root itself in the living earth, growing and changing even as you do. These small rituals transform grief from something heavy and stagnant into something that breathes alongside you. Standing on the Golden Gate Bridge offers a vivid image of this process. The span itself represents transition, the movement from one shore to another, from holding on to letting go. The wind is strong, almost demanding honesty. Beneath you, the Pacific roars, endless and uncontainable. In that place, you hold a letter or a token or even just a thought of the one you are releasing. You open your hand and you let it go. The wind takes it, the ocean receives it, and you are left with empty hands, not in loss but in freedom. Your hands are now open for what is to come. Letting go does not mean losing love. This is the lie that keeps us clinging. We confuse release with betrayal, as if loosening our grip means we didn't care enough. But love is not diminished by release. It is purified. When you stop clutching the past, love becomes something you carry within you, not something you try to trap outside of you. It shifts from being a chain around your neck to a fire in your chest, warming you as you walk forward. The work of letting go reshapes relationships, too. Many people hold on not only to memories of loss, but also to relationships that no longer serve them. Out of fear of loneliness, out of habit, or out of the belief that change is betrayal, they cling to what is no longer alive. Yet holding on to what is dead only prevents you from opening yourself to what might be alive again. To release is to make space, for healing, for renewal, for connection that is rooted in the present rather than chained to the past. Identity itself becomes freer when you let go. We hold on to who we once were, successful, admired, needed, and resist the truth that life has changed. This clinging creates suffering because we are trying to live in yesterday's skin. Letting go means allowing yourself to evolve. It means acknowledging, I am no longer who I was, but I am still becoming. The past shaped you, yes, but it does not define the whole of you. You are not only what you lost, you are also what you are still capable of creating. So ask yourself, what am I still holding on to? A relationship that has ended, a version of myself that no longer fits, a memory I replay until it hurts. Whatever it is, honor it. Ritual. Light a candle, take a walk, plant a tree, write a letter, and then, like standing on that bridge, let it go into the wind, not to forget, not to deny, but to free yourself from the trap of clinging so you can live again with hands open, heart available, and spirit ready for what lies ahead. Because the truth is simple, you cannot move forward while gripping the past with both hands. To cross into tomorrow, you must release yesterday. And when you do, you will discover that love and memory do not vanish with release. They transform. They accompany you not as chains but as quiet strength. Holding on feels safe. It gives us the illusion of control, as if by clinging tightly enough we can freeze time, preserve love, or protect ourselves from the finality of loss. But the truth is harsher. Nothing we grip can stay the same. People change, moments pass, seasons turn. What we hold on to inevitably slips through our fingers, not because we failed, but because impermanence is the nature of life. The trap of holding on is not just that it keeps us tethered to yesterday. It also blinds us to the beauty of today. Grief exposes how powerful this trap can be. When someone we love dies, when a relationship ends, or when life shifts in ways we never wanted, the instinct is to clutch the past so tightly that our knuckles turn white. We go over old conversations in our minds, reliving them again and again, as if replaying them could undo what has happened. We refuse to change the room, to move the chair, to wash the cup left behind, believing that these small acts of preservation keep the presence of what we lost alive. Yet even in this clinging, time keeps moving. The room fills with dust. The air grows heavy. What was once love becomes pain because what we hold has stopped breathing. American culture complicates grief by demanding closure. Friends and colleagues expect you to move on, to smile again, to show that you are better. Companies give you a few days to mourn and then expect full productivity, as though sorrow were something that could be scheduled and completed like a task. Closure has become a cultural ideal, but it is a myth. There is no neat ending to grief, no ribbon to tie around the box of loss. The best we can do is integration, to carry what we lost in new ways, to let it live in us without trapping us in the past. This is where ritual becomes an act of liberation. Ritual acknowledges that the past matters, that love mattered, that memory deserves reverence. But it also creates a space where release is possible. Lighting a candle each evening in memory of what you lost allows you to honor the presence without chaining yourself to absence. A dedicated walk, a path you take with the intention of remembering, turns grief into movement, each step a prayer of both gratitude and surrender. Planting a tree transforms memory into life, rooting it in the soil, allowing it to grow into shade, into oxygen, into beauty that continues long after your sorrow has begun to soften. These rituals give grief its rightful place, without letting it control every place. They help you hold memory without being held hostage by it. They remind you that letting go does not mean forgetting, it means allowing love to take new forms. The image of the Golden Gate Bridge captures this perfectly. Standing there, the Pacific wind fierce against your face, you feel the immensity of crossing over. One shore behind you, another before you, and beneath you the restless sea. You hold in your hands a letter, a flower, or even just a thought, a token of what you've been carrying. You lean forward and release it into the wind. For a moment your chest tightens with fear. Will this release mean I am betraying the memory? But then you see it carried away, taken by air and sea into something larger than yourself. In that moment you understand, release is not betrayal, release is freedom. The love remains, but it no longer chains you. Your hands are open again, ready for life. This is the paradox. By loosening your grip, you do not lose what mattered, you allow it to breathe. You give it room to transform from a chain into a companion. You begin to carry it not as a weight, but as quiet strength, woven into the fabric of who you are. The trap of holding on is seductive, but it is also suffocating. It convinces you that grief means loyalty, that resistance means love, that moving forward means forgetting. But the truth is the opposite. Love does not die when you let go, it deepens. Grief does not vanish when you release, it reshapes. Memory is not erased when you stop clinging, it finds a gentler place in your heart. So look closely at your own life. What are you still holding on to? A person, a moment, a version of yourself. What keeps you tethered to yesterday at the expense of today? Begin there. Write it down. Light a candle, walk with it. Plant something new. Stand on a bridge, whether literal or symbolic, and offer it to the wind. Let it cross. Let yourself cross. Because the truth is clear, you cannot live fully in the present with both hands chained to the past. You cannot open yourself to new joy if you are still clutching old sorrow. To let go is not to abandon, it is to honor. It is to acknowledge that love shaped you, that loss changed you, and that life, always moving forward, still waits for you on the other side. Part 6. The power of stillness in a restless world. Stillness isn't weakness, it's mastery. We live in a culture that glorifies motion, speed, and noise. To be constantly busy is praised as ambition, while to pause is often judged as laziness. Yet if you look closely, you'll see that some of the deepest clarity, the most profound breakthroughs, and the truest peace arise not in endless movement but in silence. It is in stillness that the fog clears. It is in stillness that the noise inside us begins to settle, and the truth hidden beneath the chaos reveals itself. But America, like much of the modern world, has become addicted to restlessness. The ethos of hustle culture defines worth by output. Productivity is worshipped. Exhaustion is worn as a badge of honor, and the idea of slowing down feels almost shameful. People brag about sleepless nights, about being always reachable, always available, always busy. We are rewarded for speed, for multitasking, for cramming one more obligation into a calendar already bursting at the seams. And yet beneath this glorification of busyness lies an epidemic of burnout, anxiety, depression, and emptiness. The soul cannot thrive in constant motion. A restless life may look successful on the outside, but on the inside it is starving. Stillness, then, is an act of rebellion. To sit quietly in a world that demands noise is radical. To be fully present in a culture that celebrates distraction is revolutionary. Stillness is not weakness. It is mastery over the very forces that try to pull us away from ourselves. For in stillness, we reclaim what constant motion steals from us: clarity, presence, depth, and peace. Think of Lake Tahoe in the early morning. The waters are perfectly still, mirroring the sky with flawless precision. Mountains rise in the distance, their forms reflected in the calm surface. Only when a breeze stirs or a stone is thrown does the reflection become distorted. Your mind is like that lake. In stillness, it reflects truth with clarity. In restlessness, the surface ripples and twists, making everything look distorted, confusing, chaotic. Clarity is not found by forcing answers. It arises naturally when the waters of the mind are still. But how do we cultivate stillness in a restless world? One way is through deliberate disconnection. A digital detox retreat, even if only for a day, can recalibrate the nervous system. Turn off the phone, close the laptop, disconnect from the endless stream of messages and notifications, and sit with the discomfort of silence. At first, it feels unbearable. The hand twitches toward the screen, the mind screams for distraction. But as hours pass, something shifts. The anxiety softens. The world becomes quieter. And in that quiet, you begin to notice the subtler rhythms of life. The sound of wind in the trees, the rise and fall of your breath, the thoughts you've been avoiding but need to face. If a full retreat feels daunting, begin smaller. Try the 10 minutes of silence challenge each day. No phone, no music, no talking, no reading. Just sit, close your eyes, and allow yourself to be. 10 minutes may sound short, but to a restless mind it can feel like eternity. That is why it is powerful. In those 10 minutes you practice mastery. You teach yourself that you are not enslaved to motion, that you can endure stillness, that you can even welcome it. Over time, 10 minutes becomes a sanctuary, a place you long for instead of dread. Nature immersion is another path. Walk into the woods, sit by a river, or stand on a mountain ridge. The natural world has no interest in hustle culture. Trees do not rush to grow. Rivers do not sprint toward the ocean. Mountains do not apologize for their stillness. Nature teaches by example. Life unfolds in rhythms, not in constant acceleration. Sitting in stillness within nature reminds you that you too are part of those rhythms. You are not a machine built to run endlessly. You are a living being meant to rest, to pause, to breathe. Stillness is not empty. It is full. It is full of the truths that busyness drowns out. It is full of the whispers you have ignored, the insights waiting to surface, the emotions longing to be felt. Many people fear stillness because in silence the suppressed rises. The grief, the loneliness, the questions, these come forward when distraction is stripped away. But this is the very gift of stillness. It brings into the light what must be healed. Clarity does not always come as a sweet vision. Sometimes it comes as a confrontation. But it is always liberating because only in facing what emerges can you move toward wholeness. Imagine again Lake Tahoe at dawn. You sit on its shores, the air crisp, the world hushed. The still waters reflect everything with perfect honesty. You realize that this is what stillness does for the soul. It reflects your life back to you with unflinching clarity. The ripples will return, the storms will come, but for now, in this moment of quiet, you see yourself as you are. And that vision, however simple, is the beginning of freedom. The power of stillness lies not in escaping the world, but in meeting it with greater presence. When you cultivate silence, you discover that you no longer rush through conversations. You listen deeply. You no longer measure your worth by your output. You recognize your value in simply being. You no longer let the constant noise of the world dictate your peace. You carry peace within you, a reservoir you can return to again and again. Stillness is not a retreat from life. It is preparation for it. It equips you to move through chaos without being consumed, to act with clarity instead of panic, to love with presence instead of distraction. In a restless world, mastery is not the ability to do more, but the courage to stop, to breathe, to be still. So stop running for a moment. Turn off the noise. Step outside. Sit by a lake, a tree, or even just in the quiet of your room. Let the stillness settle in. It may feel awkward at first, even uncomfortable, but if you remain, you will begin to sense its power. Clarity will rise not as a shout, but as a whisper. And in that whisper, you may hear the truth you have been searching for all along. The danger of hustle culture is not simply exhaustion, it is emptiness. When your days are filled from morning until night with tasks, obligations, and endless demands, you may feel productive, but beneath the surface you are hollow. Hustle promises significance but often delivers disconnection. From your own heart, from your relationships, from the sacred quiet that nourishes the soul. The constant chase numbs you to the present moment. You are always moving but never arriving. This restlessness has become a cultural norm in the United States. From the time children enter school, they are taught to keep moving, to achieve, to outperform. High schoolers are scheduled to the brink of collapse, juggling academics, sports, jobs, and extracurriculars. College students are pressured to network, to build resumes, to stay ahead of competition. Adults measure their worth by titles, salaries, and how little vacation they take. Even leisure has become performative. Vacations are staged for social media. Hobbies are monetized. Relaxation is a luxury to be justified. Hustle culture doesn't just push us forward, it strips us of the capacity to stand still. But what if mastery isn't about acceleration? What if it's about stillness? The kind of stillness that lets you feel the beat of your own heart, the rhythm of your own breath, the quiet voice of your inner life. Clarity, wisdom, and resilience do not come from constant striving. They arise when the noise quiets, when the surface of the mind is calm enough for truth to appear. Like the still waters of Lake Tahoe reflecting the mountains around it, stillness allows us to see ourselves clearly. Consider the way silence feels when you first encounter it. For many, it is unbearable. The phone feels heavy in your pocket, whispering distractions. The mind leaps to worries, regrets, unfinished conversations. Silence reveals everything we have avoided, and this is why we run. But if you remain, if you stay in that silence without numbing, without fleeing, you begin to notice something deeper. Beneath the restlessness, there is a steadiness. Beneath the noise, there is peace. Stillness is not the absence of life. It is the rediscovery of it. Practical steps make this attainable. A digital detox retreat, even for a weekend, can reset the nervous system. Imagine leaving your devices behind and stepping into a cabin surrounded by trees. At first, your mind screams for stimulation. You reach for the phone that isn't there. Check for notifications that never come. But as hours pass, something softens. You hear the wind moving through branches, the sound of your footsteps on pine needles, the slow rhythm of your breath. What once felt like deprivation becomes a gift, the return of presence. If a retreat isn't possible, try the 10-minute silence challenge. Sit down each day, set a timer, and simply be. No music, no screens, no distractions. Just silence. The first days may feel like torture. But with practice, those 10 minutes transform into a sanctuary. They become a mirror where you see yourself without filters. They become a reminder that you are more than what you do. You are also what you are when you simply are. Nature immersion amplifies this. Go to a forest, a mountain, or even a park in your neighborhood. Notice how nothing in nature hurries, yet everything thrives. Trees grow slowly but surely. Rivers carve valleys with patience, not speed. The earth does not rush, yet its rhythms sustain all life. When you sit quietly in nature, you are reminded that you belong to those rhythms too. You are not a machine built for endless output. You are a human being created for balance, for rest as much as for action, for stillness as much as for movement. Think of sitting on the shore of Lake Tahoe at sunrise. The water is calm, perfectly mirroring the sky. The mountains stand tall, silent witnesses to time. In that stillness, your mind begins to reflect as clearly as the lake. Thoughts that once seemed tangled find their order. Emotions that felt overwhelming soften. The noise of the world fades, and for a moment, you glimpse the truth of who you are without all the striving. Enough, worthy, whole. The power of stillness in a restless world is that it reclaims you. It returns you to yourself when hustle culture has scattered you across endless demands. It shows you that clarity does not come from doing more, but from pausing long enough to hear the whispers beneath the noise. Stillness is not a weakness to be ashamed of, it is mastery. It is the strength to stop when the world tells you to keep running, the courage to listen when the world demands you speak, the wisdom to rest when the world celebrates exhaustion. And in that stillness you find not emptiness but fullness. Fullness of presence, fullness of clarity, fullness of peace that no amount of hustle could ever buy. Part 7. You are not the pain. Pain is a visitor, not your identity. This simple truth is one of the most powerful shifts you can make in your life. So often we allow pain to define us. We see it, we feel it, and before we know it, we believe it is who we are. I am in pain, we say. I am broken, I am lost, I am forever scarred. But pain is not your essence. Pain is a passing storm in the vast sky of your being. You are the sky, pain is the weather. It will change, it will pass. You remain. This idea is not just a comforting thought. It's a deeply transformative realization. Pain, when internalized, becomes part of our identity. It stops being a temporary experience and begins to feel like an eternal truth. We begin to see ourselves through the lens of suffering, defining ourselves by what hurts. In moments of grief or loss, it can feel as though pain is the only thing that exists. The sadness swallows us, and we lose sight of the fact that we are more than the sorrow we carry. But imagine this, you are not the pain. You are not the sadness, the fear, or the anxiety that washes over you. You are the vast sky, the boundless space that holds these feelings but is not confined by them. Pain can visit, but it does not own you. It can stir the clouds, it can darken the sky, but it cannot change the nature of the sky itself. You remain steady, unbroken, expansive. Blending Buddhist wisdom with modern psychology, we find tools to help us separate our true selves from the pain we experience. In Buddhism, the concept of dukkha refers to suffering, but it also points to the impermanence of all things. Suffering, like joy, is temporary. It comes and it goes like the waves of the ocean. By recognizing that pain is not a permanent part of our identity, we begin to see it for what it is, a passing experience, not an unshakable truth. In modern psychology, this understanding is reflected in the technique of self-distancing. When you can step back from your pain and observe it as something separate from yourself, you gain clarity. Instead of saying, "I am sad," you say, "I feel sadness." You separate the emotion from your identity. This small shift allows you to honor the emotion without becoming trapped in it. You acknowledge the storm without believing you are the storm. Cognitive reframing offers another tool. Instead of interpreting pain as a sign of something wrong with you, reframe it as a natural part of being human. Pain is a signal, a message from your body and mind that something needs attention. It does not mean you are weak. It means you are alive. Pain is a messenger. If you can approach it with curiosity instead of fear, you will begin to see its lessons. The practice of labeling emotions is simple but profound. "I feel sadness" is far different from "I am sadness." The former allows you to observe the emotion without being consumed by it. The latter traps you in an identity that is not yours to claim. Labeling your emotions separates you from them, creating the necessary space for healing. You are not the sadness, you are the one who feels it. You are not the pain, you are the one who experiences it. Think of Mount Rainier, its towering peaks surrounded by clouds. The storm may come, darkening the sky, but the mountain remains unchanged. The clouds pass. The storm subsides. The mountain stays. This is how you must view yourself. You are the mountain. Pain is the storm that passes. You may feel its weight, you may experience its intensity, but you are not destroyed by it. This perspective shifts how you experience life's difficulties. Instead of becoming lost in your struggles, you begin to see them as temporary and manageable. You recognize that while you may feel pain, it does not define you. You are not the scars you carry. You are the heart that endures. When pain arrives, instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What is this pain teaching me?" Pain can show us where we need to grow. It can teach us to become more compassionate, more resilient, more attuned to our needs. If you look at pain as a visitor, it becomes easier to greet it with acceptance. You allow it to come and go without the need to fight it. In the same way, you can embrace joy as a visitor. It too is fleeting, but it does not define you either. You are the vastness that holds all experiences. When joy arrives, you welcome it fully, knowing that it will pass, but that does not diminish its value. You are not defined by happiness any more than you are defined by pain. You are the sky, and both the clouds of joy and the clouds of pain will float through you. Living this way frees you from the tyranny of attachment. You no longer define yourself by what you have lost or what you are afraid of losing. You stop grasping at joy, trying to make it last forever. You stop avoiding pain, trying to keep it at bay. You begin to experience life as it is, fluid, impermanent, and full of opportunities to grow. This truth is the heart of healing. When you stop identifying with your pain, you release its grip. You no longer suffer from the belief that you are broken. You recognize that you are human, capable of feeling deeply but not defined by what you feel. You begin to live with greater openness, knowing that even in your darkest moments you remain vast, unbroken, and whole. You are not your pain. You are the sky. Pain is the weather. In every person's life, pain arrives. It may come in the form of loss, rejection, betrayal, or failure. It may be physical, emotional, or psychological. Yet while pain is inevitable, it is not permanent. It is simply one of the many visitors to your life. If you can understand this, that pain is a visitor and not your identity, you will no longer be bound by it. You will no longer be ruled by the illusion that you are broken because you feel pain. In truth, feeling pain is an indication of your aliveness, your depth, and your humanity. Pain does not make you weaker, it makes you human. It does not define who you are. It is simply a passage. The tragedy occurs when we forget this. When we allow pain to shape our identity, we surrender our power to it. We let it become our defining characteristic. I am in pain, we think. But no, you are not the pain. You are the sky. Pain is just the weather, sometimes stormy, sometimes clear, but always passing. One of the most liberating concepts in both Buddhist wisdom and modern psychology is the practice of self-distancing. This technique invites you to step back from your emotions, especially when they are overwhelming, and view them from a place of observation. Instead of saying, "I am sad," you say, "I feel sadness." This subtle shift can be profoundly transformative. By labeling the emotion as something separate from yourself, you break the attachment that binds you to it. You acknowledge it, feel it, but you do not become it. You separate the experience from your identity. This approach doesn't negate your feelings or ask you to suppress them. It simply provides you with a tool to maintain perspective. You can feel sadness, grief, or anger without losing sight of the truth. You are not defined by those feelings. Just as you are not the pain in your body, you are not the sorrow in your heart. You are the one who feels, who experiences, who moves through life with all of its emotional ebbs and flows. Think of your emotions as clouds passing through the sky. They may darken the sky momentarily, but the sky itself remains vast and unchanged. Your feelings are like clouds. They come, they shift, and they move on. Some storms may feel longer than others, but just as clouds eventually break, so too will your feelings of sorrow or anger pass. The sky does not panic when the clouds appear. It simply allows them to pass, knowing that it will return to clarity once the storm has moved through. This imagery is not just metaphorical, it's rooted in reality. Studies in psychology and neuroscience have shown that emotions, when not repressed or avoided, are temporary. They last only a few minutes at their peak, and even the most intense feelings dissipate over time. However, when we refuse to allow emotions to pass, when we try to suppress or control them, they persist. They become locked in the body, carried as tension, stress, and even illness. But when we allow emotions to simply be, they float by like clouds. Another psychological technique that can help with this process is cognitive reframing. This is the art of changing how you interpret and relate to your emotional experiences. Instead of seeing pain as something that defines you, reframe it as a signal, a message from your heart, your mind, or your body. Pain asks you to pay attention. It invites you to heal, to transform, to release what no longer serves you. It is not your enemy. It is your teacher. When you begin to practice self-distancing and cognitive reframing, you begin to step out of the story of pain and into the story of transformation. Pain is no longer a weight you carry. It becomes a stepping stone on your journey. You no longer need to identify with it. You no longer need to say, "I am broken." Instead, you can say, "I am healing, I am learning, I am evolving." These practices take time. They require patience and consistency. But as you practice, you will begin to notice a subtle shift. You will begin to feel your emotions without drowning in them. You will allow them to wash over you and you will let them go. You will become the sky, vast, resilient, and ever-present. The storms will come and go, but you will remain. And with this shift, something extraordinary happens. You stop fearing pain. You stop avoiding it. You stop trying to run from it. Instead, you begin to welcome it. Not because you want to suffer, but because you understand that pain, like everything else, is part of the flow of life. It is part of your growth. The more you allow it to visit without clinging to it, the more you discover the freedom that comes with release. Imagine standing at Mount Rainier, looking up at the towering peak as clouds gather around it. The mountain stands firm and unyielding while the clouds swirl in and out, temporarily obscuring its grandeur. But the mountain remains, unaffected by the storms. And as you stand there watching the clouds shift and pass, you realize that you too are like the mountain. Your emotions may come and go, your pain may rise and fall, but at your core you are unshaken. You are the sky, vast and steady, holding everything with compassion without attachment. As you move through your life, remember this. You are not the pain. You are the sky. Pain is simply the weather. Sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes it's stormy, but always it moves on. And just as the clouds will eventually part, so too will your pain, if you allow it. Part 8. Let pain shape you, not shatter you. Pain can harden or soften us. The choice is ours. The human experience is punctuated by moments of suffering, whether through loss, failure, rejection, or hardship. These moments are inevitable. But what we often forget is that pain, as raw and as brutal as it feels, does not have to break us. It does not have to define us as victims. In fact, pain has the potential to be one of the greatest catalysts for growth. Like the lotus that rises from the mud, we too can emerge from the darkest moments, not broken but transformed. The choice lies in how we approach it. This is not to say that pain is easy to endure. Pain is never something to wish for, and it can feel unbearable when we are in the thick of it. However, it is in the aftermath of suffering that the opportunity for transformation arises. Will we allow ourselves to be hardened, to shut down, to retreat into numbness? Or will we choose to soften, to open up, to learn, to rebuild from the ground up? The answer is not always immediate, and it may take time, but the potential for growth lies within every painful experience. One of the most powerful symbols of this process is the lotus flower. The lotus grows in the murkiest of waters, its roots submerged in mud and its leaves breaking through the surface toward the sun. The flower blooms in the most unlikely place, not because it is untouched by the mud, but because it has grown through it. The lotus teaches us that beauty, growth, and resilience often come from the most difficult circumstances. It shows us that even in the darkest, most painful moments, we can rise, our roots stronger for having endured the struggle. Real-world examples of resilience are all around us, if we choose to see them. One such example is the aftermath of natural disasters, such as the wildfires in California. Year after year, communities face the ravaging destruction of wildfires. Homes burned to the ground, landscapes decimated, lives disrupted. And yet, in the wake of such devastation, something incredible happens. The communities rebuild. Houses are reconstructed, neighborhoods restored, lives slowly return to a new sense of normalcy. The very soil, though scorched, gives way to new growth. People return to the land, planting trees and flowers, rebuilding homes and businesses, creating anew from the ashes. This is resilience in its most profound form. Pain, destruction, and loss are undeniable. But in the face of all this, these communities choose not to be defined by their suffering. They choose to let the pain shape them, to rise from it, to reclaim their lives. The wounds of the past do not vanish, but they become the foundation for a stronger, more connected future. This is the lesson that pain offers us. It is not about denying its presence, but about choosing how to respond. Will we let pain harden us, or will we let it open us to deeper layers of our humanity? Will we shut down, or will we rise? The decision is not easy, but it is ours to make. In our personal lives, this process of post-traumatic growth that comes after significant hardship, can often be found in moments of reflection. Take a moment and look back on your life. What were the moments that shaped you most? Were they the moments of success, of ease, of joy? Or were they the moments of struggle, of pain, of loss? The truth is, the most profound transformations often come from our darkest moments. It is in the depths of pain that we learn our true strength, our true resilience, our capacity to love and to rebuild. To practice post-traumatic growth, start by looking for these moments in your own history. Perhaps there was a time when you lost something or someone, and in the aftermath, you found new parts of yourself you never knew existed. Maybe there was a period of failure or rejection that propelled you to try harder, to push yourself beyond your limits. Reflect on these moments, not as tragedies, but as the soil in which your strength grew. In the same way, New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina stands as a symbol of both devastation and rebirth. The storm wiped out much of the city, leaving families displaced, homes destroyed, lives shattered. Yet in the aftermath, New Orleans did not remain a broken city. The people of New Orleans rebuilt, not just the infrastructure, but their very spirit. The city came together, drawn by a shared vision of recovery, of a future more vibrant and resilient than before. The pain did not disappear, but it became the catalyst for something new, something even more beautiful than what had existed before. Just as New Orleans rose from the wreckage, so too can you rise from your pain. The scars you carry are not signs of weakness. They are reminders of your resilience. Pain will shape you, but it does not have to shatter you. In fact, it is the very process of being shaped by pain that makes you stronger, more compassionate, more whole. Think of the lotus once more. The flower is not untouched by the mud. It grows from it, through it, and because of it. The same is true for you. Pain does not break you, it teaches you. It refines you. It helps you become the person you were always meant to be. So, let pain shape you, not shatter you. Allow it to transform you into a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate version of yourself. Do not run from the darkness. Embrace it, knowing that it is through this darkness that you will rise. You are not the pain you feel. You are the one who feels it, and from that feeling you will grow. Resilience is not about erasing the scars of the past. It is about learning to live with them, to carry them as part of our story, and to grow because of them. Many people mistakenly believe that healing means forgetting. They think that if they let go of their pain, it will somehow diminish the love, the connection, or the significance of what they lost. But healing is not forgetting. Healing is accepting. Healing is integrating the pain into the tapestry of our lives, allowing it to shape us into more compassionate, more understanding versions of ourselves. When we let pain shape us, we stop viewing it as something to be ashamed of. We stop running from it, denying it, or trying to bury it. Instead, we begin to see it as an essential part of our human experience, a teacher that pushes us to grow, to dig deeper, to reach higher. It is through pain that we discover our deepest strengths, our deepest capacities for love, for forgiveness, and for resilience. It is through pain that we become whole. Think back to the wildfires in California where entire towns have been consumed by flames. It's a brutal reality where the land, the homes, and the livelihoods of countless people are suddenly erased. Yet, what emerges from this devastation is nothing short of extraordinary. People band together to rebuild, to help, and to heal. The land, scorched and barren, begins to recover, small green shoots emerging from the charred earth, a silent testament to the power of renewal. The process of recovery after such a disaster is never easy. It involves immense loss and struggle. But what is remarkable about resilience is that it does not simply restore what was lost. It transforms it. What was once a barren landscape is now one that holds within it the potential for new life. What was once broken is now being rebuilt with deeper roots, stronger foundations, and a renewed sense of community. Pain doesn't just teach us to survive, it teaches us how to thrive. This is the power of post-traumatic growth. It is the strength to rise from the ashes, to build something new from what was destroyed, to see beauty where there was once only destruction. Post-traumatic growth does not erase the pain, it shifts our perspective on it. It shows us that we are capable of rising again, that we can rebuild and regenerate, and that we are never truly defeated by our suffering. Now, think about your own life. What pain have you experienced that you once thought would break you? A relationship that ended, a dream that shattered, a failure that left you feeling worthless. In the midst of that pain, it may have seemed like there was no way forward. But if you look back now, you may see that the very thing you feared would destroy you actually made you stronger. It taught you lessons you would never have learned otherwise. It brought you closer to who you truly are. One of the most empowering practices in post-traumatic growth is the ability to reflect on those moments of pain and ask, what did this teach me? When you view pain through this lens, it becomes a source of wisdom, not just suffering. You can look at the things that hurt the most, and instead of seeing them as tragedies, you can see them as opportunities for growth. You are no longer defined by what you lost. You are defined by what you have learned, by how you have grown, and by how you have used your pain to become a more resilient, more empathetic person. This is what it means to let pain shape you, not shatter you. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance, as someone who is broken and forever scarred. Instead, you begin to see yourself as someone who has weathered the storm and emerged stronger for it. You are not your pain. You are the one who experienced it, learned from it, and grew because of it. The symbolism of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina is another powerful example of how pain can shape us. When the storm hit, the city was left in ruins. The floodwaters wiped out homes, businesses, and entire communities. Yet, what emerged from that devastation was a new, more vibrant New Orleans. The people, devastated by their losses, came together to rebuild not just their homes, but their spirit. The city became a symbol of resilience, of the power of community, of the ability to rise even in the face of the greatest challenges. The pain of the floodwaters was real. The losses were immeasurable. But in the rebuilding, the city did not just return to what it was. It became something stronger, something more united, something more alive. The people of New Orleans learned from their suffering and used it to create something new. And so can you. Your pain, too, can become the foundation for something greater. You don't have to let it define you as a victim. Instead, let it become the catalyst for your growth. Let it be the fuel that drives you to become more compassionate, more understanding, more capable of facing the storms that will inevitably come. Because the truth is this, pain will always be a part of life. It will come in many forms, emotional, physical, mental. It will test you, challenge you, and sometimes break you. But it does not have to shatter you. Pain, when embraced and faced with courage, can become the force that shapes you into the person you are meant to be. It can become the stepping stone that leads you to deeper strength, deeper wisdom, and deeper love. You are not your pain. You are the one who experiences it, and through that experience you have the power to grow. Like the lotus rising from the mud, like the communities rebuilding after tragedy, you have the ability to emerge from suffering stronger, wiser, and more alive than ever before. Part 9. Acceptance over control. There is a quiet revolution taking place in the spaces between our breath, in the moments when we stop struggling and start surrendering. In a world that glorifies control, where every aspect of life is dissected into plans, schedules, and deadlines, the idea of acceptance can seem like surrender. But it is not. In fact, acceptance is far stronger than control. It is freedom disguised as surrender. It is the peace that arises when we finally stop fighting with life and begin to flow with it. In the United States, there is an obsession with control. We overplan, overmanage, and overorganize every moment of our lives, as though the more we control, the more we can ensure our happiness, our success, and our safety. The culture encourages us to fight against uncertainty, to avoid discomfort, and to plan our way to perfection. We see control as a form of strength, our calendars filled, our phones buzzing, our lives on track. But this obsession with control has a hidden cost. It creates a life built on resistance, and resistance, as we have already learned, multiplies pain. The harder we try to control our circumstances, the more tightly we grip life, and the more life fights back. We become trapped in a cycle of anxiety, overwork, and exhaustion. We cannot control the inevitable changes that come with living: loss, pain, uncertainty, impermanence. And when we try, we set ourselves up for frustration and suffering. In contrast, acceptance is not about resignation or passivity. It is the opposite. It is the powerful decision to let go of what cannot be controlled. It is the quiet strength of embracing life as it is, without resistance, without the need to manipulate or shape it to fit our desires. Acceptance means allowing things to unfold, knowing that we are not the authors of every chapter. We are the readers, the experiencers. We can choose to see life for what it truly is, not for what we think it should be. One of the most profound practices in acceptance is the meditation of radical acceptance. This practice involves accepting all parts of your life, including the painful, the uncomfortable, and the uncertain. It is about acknowledging that there are things beyond our control: our past, the behavior of others, the twists of fate, and choosing to release the need to control them. Instead, we accept them as part of our human experience. In a radical acceptance meditation, you sit quietly, breathing in deeply, and allow whatever emotions, thoughts, or sensations arise without judgment. You acknowledge them without trying to change them. You say to yourself, "This is happening. This is real. I am here with it." You recognize the fullness of your life as it is in this moment. You let go of any resistance, and in doing so, you allow peace to enter. This is not easy. We are trained to fix things, to solve problems, to make the discomfort go away. But radical acceptance asks us to sit with what we cannot change. It asks us to be present, to feel fully, and to let life flow without interference. This practice does not negate our desires or our ambitions. It simply teaches us that there is another way to be. We do not need to control every outcome. We can trust that we are resilient enough to face life's challenges, even when we cannot prevent them. One of the most powerful tools in practicing acceptance is writing. By taking the time to write about what we cannot control, we begin to release the burden of carrying it alone. Write down the things that are out of your hands, the people who are no longer in your life, the dreams that haven't materialized, the losses that have marked you. Write about your resistance to these things and notice how that resistance feels in your body. Then, write about surrender. What does it feel like to release control? What would it mean to let go of the need for everything to go your way? By writing these thoughts down, you begin the process of surrender. You may not let go all at once, but with each word you loosen your grip. To better understand this principle, imagine yourself as a lone traveler by the Mississippi River. The river flows, as it always has, regardless of the resistance it faces. You may see fallen trees blocking its path, or rocks that cause it to ripple and change direction. But the river does not stop. It flows regardless of what tries to obstruct it. It does not fight with the obstacles it encounters. It moves around them, around what it cannot control, and continues its journey. In the same way, we are like that river. Life throws obstacles in our path, changes the course of our journey, and presents us with challenges we cannot avoid. But if we choose to fight, to resist, to constantly struggle against what we cannot control, we exhaust ourselves. If we choose to flow, to accept the changes, to release the need to direct every part of our lives, we move forward with ease. The river doesn't need to fight, it just flows. And in that flow, it finds its way. The liberation of surrender is not weakness, it is strength. It is the wisdom to recognize that control is not always the answer. Surrender allows us to stop fighting against life and to begin working with it. It is the freedom to accept what we cannot change and to embrace what is here in this moment. So, let go of the need for control. Let go of the constant hustle. Let go of the belief that you can plan your way to happiness. Acceptance is not about giving up, it is about giving in to the flow of life. You don't have to control every outcome. You only need to trust yourself to handle whatever comes. And when you trust, when you surrender, you allow the energy of the universe to guide you. In doing so, you discover that life is not something to be controlled, but something to be experienced. You realize that peace is found not in trying to bend life to your will, but in allowing it to unfold in its own time. When we finally let go of our need to control everything, we make room for true freedom. We stop fighting with the present moment, and instead, we become participants in it. So much of our anxiety stems from the illusion that we can control the future, the world around us, and the reactions of others. But the truth is, control is a mirage. No matter how tightly we hold on, the world will not bend to our will. What we can control is how we respond to life, how we accept what comes, and how we choose to navigate the unpredictable currents. The fear of surrendering to the flow of life comes from the mistaken belief that we will be left powerless. We equate surrender with giving up, with admitting defeat, with being weak. But in reality, surrender is the greatest form of strength. It is not the passive acceptance of whatever life throws at you. It is the active choice to trust that, no matter what happens, you are capable of navigating through it. Consider the lives of those who have undergone immense hardship but have come out the other side with a greater sense of peace and resilience. These are the people who have faced immense suffering, whether it be the loss of loved ones, financial ruin, or personal failure. And rather than trying to control the circumstances, they chose to surrender to what they could not change. They didn't let the pain define them. Instead, they allowed the pain to be part of their journey, a moment in time that shaped them but did not shackle them. Take, for example, the survivors of natural disasters, such as the survivors of the 2004 tsunami in Southeast Asia. Entire communities were wiped out. The loss of life, the destruction of homes, the overwhelming grief. It was unimaginable. And yet, from this devastation, many of these survivors rebuilt their lives with incredible strength. They didn't fight the pain, they allowed it to shape them. They didn't resist the overwhelming tragedy. They embraced the reality of their loss, and with that acceptance, they found the power to rebuild. In the face of unimaginable destruction, they chose to be the river, flowing and reshaping their lives with the current. It is the same for all of us. When we face suffering, we are presented with two choices. We can resist, fight, and attempt to control everything, or we can accept what is and allow it to guide us toward growth. Resisting pain only keeps us trapped in it. It prolongs our suffering, creating a cycle of conflict and struggle. But when we let go, when we accept the ebb and flow of life, we can move forward with grace. In our daily lives, we are constantly met with opportunities to practice this acceptance. It might be the frustration of a missed opportunity, the disappointment of a relationship ending, or the sadness of an unfulfilled dream. Instead of fighting against the reality of these moments, we can learn to pause and say, "This is what is, and it is okay." We can acknowledge the pain, the sorrow, the uncertainty, and choose to stay with it without being consumed by it. This is where true growth begins, not in the absence of difficulty, but in our ability to remain present in the face of it. One practice to help you cultivate this sense of radical acceptance is through mindful awareness. When you feel yourself becoming overwhelmed by life's unpredictability, take a moment to pause. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. You may be angry, sad, or afraid, but instead of reacting, simply acknowledge these emotions for what they are. I feel fear, you might say. I feel disappointment. By labeling your emotions, you create space between yourself and your feelings. You become the observer, not the reactor. This practice of self-awareness allows you to navigate your emotions with clarity, without being overwhelmed by them. Another powerful practice is the act of writing what cannot be controlled. Take a moment to sit quietly and write down all the things you feel are outside of your control. Perhaps it's the actions of others, the timing of your dreams, the state of the world, or the past you cannot change. Write it all down. Then once the list is complete, look at it and acknowledge that these things do not define you. You cannot control them, and that is okay. Surrendering does not mean resigning. It means acknowledging that some things are beyond your grasp and choosing to accept that truth. This is not the same as giving up. It is not about being passive in the face of life's difficulties. It is about reclaiming your power by choosing how you respond. The more we surrender to the things we cannot change, the more we free ourselves from the weight of constant striving. We can't control the weather, but we can control how we respond to it. We can't control the flow of time, but we can control how we use the time we have. In this way, surrender becomes a form of strength, not weakness. To understand this better, imagine standing on the banks of the Mississippi River. The river flows with an unyielding force, carving its way through the landscape, shaping the earth as it moves. No matter how much resistance is placed in its path, the river flows forward. You cannot stop it. You cannot force it to turn in another direction. And yet the river is never defeated. It does not fight against the landscape. It simply flows with it, carving new paths and continuing its journey. This is how we must learn to move through life. Like the Mississippi River, we must learn to flow with what is. We cannot control the twists and turns, the obstacles that arise, or the challenges we face, but we can control how we respond. We can choose to move forward, to release the need to fight against the current, and to embrace the journey. Life will always flow, and our true strength lies in how we choose to move with it. Acceptance is the freedom to let go of the need to control every aspect of your life. It is the wisdom to recognize that some things are beyond our influence, and that is not only okay, it is natural. When we embrace this truth, we stop fighting life and start living it. We begin to understand that everything is temporary, everything changes, and that we are not meant to control it all. We are meant to experience it. We are meant to flow. Part 10. Healing and the Strength of Softness. Healing is not erasing pain, but transforming it. In a world that often teaches us to push through pain, to move on and get over it, we are led to believe that healing means leaving the pain behind, as if it were a wound to be cut away and forgotten. But this idea of healing as erasure is a lie. Healing is not about forgetting what hurt you. It is about transforming that hurt into something meaningful. It is the process of taking the broken parts of yourself and instead of hiding them or trying to make them disappear, allowing them to become the foundation for your strength. Healing is not a linear journey. It does not happen overnight, and it does not happen by force. It is a gradual unfolding, a journey of softening. There is a misconception that healing requires toughness, that we must somehow toughen ourselves in order to overcome the pain. But the truth is that the strongest people are not those who suppress their pain, but those who allow themselves to feel it, to face it, and to transform it. Softness, vulnerability, and compassion are the true sources of strength. Forgiveness and release lighten the heart. This is a powerful truth. When we hold on to grudges, resentment, or anger, we carry a weight that diminishes our ability to heal. We think that by holding on to our pain and blaming others, we are protecting ourselves. But in reality, we are only prolonging our suffering. Forgiveness is not about letting someone off the hook. It is about freeing ourselves from the grip of past hurts. It is the decision to release the pain that has bound us, not for the other person's sake, but for our own. When we forgive, we open our hearts again. We create space for love, peace, and healing to enter. Release is an act of courage. It takes courage to let go of what you have been holding onto for so long. It takes courage to stop fighting against the pain, to stop pretending that it doesn't matter, to stop pushing it down and pretending to be fine. It takes courage to admit that you are hurt, to face the vulnerability of your emotions, and to give yourself permission to heal. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is the deepest form of strength because it requires the courage to face yourself and your pain without turning away. Softness, too, is strength. The world often tells us that strength is about being hard, about pushing through, about never showing weakness. But the real strength comes when we allow ourselves to be soft, to be open, to be tender, to allow our hearts to feel the fullness of the human experience. Softness is the ability to feel deeply without letting that depth crush you. It is the ability to allow pain to move through you without letting it define you. Softness is the strength to be vulnerable, to forgive, to love again, even after you've been hurt. One of the most profound practices in healing is loving-kindness meditation. This practice is designed to cultivate love and compassion, first for ourselves and then for others. It starts with offering kindness to yourself. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and repeat to yourself, "May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I live with ease." These words, repeated with intention, begin to soften the heart. They open you to the possibility of self-compassion. From there, you expand this loving kindness outward. You offer the same wishes to others, your loved ones, your friends, and even those with whom you have struggled. Loving kindness meditation doesn't erase pain, but it transforms it. It turns pain into compassion. Acts of silent kindness are another beautiful way to heal. These are small, anonymous gestures that carry great meaning. A note left for someone to find, a smile shared with a stranger, a helping hand given without expectation. The beauty of silent kindness is that it creates a ripple effect. When you offer kindness, you not only heal the recipient but also heal yourself. You release the grip of negativity, and in its place, you create space for joy, for connection, for peace. In offering kindness without expecting anything in return, you free yourself from the need for validation. You simply give because you understand the transformative power of love. Imagine standing at Halakala, Hawaii at sunrise. The first rays of light break through the clouds, painting the sky in hues of pink, orange, and gold. Below, the vast crater lies still, the earth holding the quiet promise of a new day. The sunrise is a symbol of new beginnings, of transformation. It is the reminder that no matter how dark the night, no matter how heavy the storm, a new day always dawns. Healing is the sunrise. It may feel like the darkness will never lift, but in time the light returns. With each new beginning, we are reborn. Life will hurt. It will stretch you, break you, test you in ways you never imagined. But in that hurt, you will also heal. And in that healing, you will discover not escape, but awakening. You will learn that you are not defined by your pain, that you are not broken by your suffering, and that you are capable of rising again, just as the lotus rises from the mud, just as the river flows regardless of obstacles. Healing is not about running away from pain. It is about allowing pain to transform you. It is about choosing to meet the world with softness instead of hardness, with vulnerability instead of defense. It is the courage to face what has hurt you, to let go of what you cannot control, and to open your heart again. In this process, you discover a strength that is not defined by your scars, but by your ability to love, to forgive, and to embrace the fullness of life. So, embrace your vulnerability, embrace the softness in yourself, and in that softness you will discover the greatest strength, the strength to heal, to love, and to become whole once again. As we come to the end of this journey, it's important to reflect on the powerful lessons we have learned throughout these chapters. Life, in all its complexities, presents us with pain, sometimes in small doses, sometimes in overwhelming waves. But throughout this exploration, one truth stands above the rest. Pain is not something we must defeat or bury. It is not a curse to avoid, but a teacher to embrace. Pain is a visitor. It arrives uninvited, but it doesn't have to stay. The way we relate to it, the way we choose to face it, makes all the difference in whether it shapes us or shatters us. In the course of this journey, we have learned to stop running from pain. Instead of fighting it or hiding from it, we learn to sit with it. We accept that pain is part of the human experience, but it does not have to define us. We are not our pain. We are the sky, vast and unchanging, and pain is the weather that passes through. We also learn that stillness, rather than being a weakness, is a powerful strength. In a world that glorifies hustle, noise, and constant busyness, stillness allows us to reconnect with our true selves. When we stop fighting against the currents of life, when we cease the constant struggle to control every outcome, we can find clarity, peace, and wisdom. Stillness doesn't mean inaction. It means a shift in perspective, the ability to breathe, to reflect, and to make choices from a place of balance, not desperation. This journey has taught us that healing is not a process of erasing pain, but transforming it. Just like the lotus that grows from the mud, we too can rise from our struggles, stronger and more beautiful for having endured them. The act of letting go, of releasing what we cannot control, is not defeat. It is the liberation that allows us to step into a new beginning, just as the sunrise follows the darkest night. Throughout this journey, we have explored the power of acceptance over control. When we stop resisting what we cannot change, we discover a deeper sense of peace. Control keeps us trapped in fear and anxiety, but acceptance sets us free. By embracing life as it is, without trying to manipulate it or force outcomes, we allow ourselves to experience the fullness of the present moment. In summary, the essential lessons of this journey are: pain is not a curse but a teacher. Pain will come, but how we respond to it shapes who we become. By facing pain instead of running from it, we find the strength to heal and grow. Stillness is strength, not weakness. In a world that worships busyness, we must learn the power of slowing down. Stillness gives us clarity and perspective, allowing us to make wise decisions and find inner peace. Healing comes through transformation, not erasure. We cannot erase the pain, but we can transform it into something meaningful. Like the lotus, we rise through the mud, carrying our lessons forward. Acceptance is liberation. Letting go of the need to control everything allows us to flow with life, embrace what we cannot change, and find peace in the present moment. These lessons are not just theories. They are practices we can apply in our lives today. The next time you feel pain, instead of running from it, try sitting with it. Reflect on what this pain is teaching you. What is it asking you to learn or release? When you feel overwhelmed by life's uncertainties, try practicing stillness. Take a moment to breathe, to step back, and to reconnect with the present moment. Allow yourself to feel without judgment, to experience without fear. In those moments of stillness, you will find the strength to navigate life's challenges with clarity and peace. In the face of struggle, remember that healing is not about erasing pain. It is about transforming it. Each difficulty you encounter is an opportunity to rise, to grow, and to emerge stronger than before. Like the lotus, you have the power to bloom through the mud. And like the river, you have the ability to flow around obstacles, finding your way even when the path is unclear. Now, I'd love to hear from you. How has pain shaped your life? How have you practiced acceptance in your own journey? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Let's support each other in this journey of healing and growth. Finally, if you found value in this content and want to continue learning about how to navigate life's challenges with strength and peace, please subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to us, and it motivates us to continue creating content that can help you on your journey. Thank you for being part of this community, and I look forward to continuing this path with you.